Welcome back, everyone, to the Kart Rider Drift League. My name is William Cho, joined by Peter today, and we welcome you to the KDL with greetings from the WAM Association. Both of us. Can you guess what the WAM Association is? It's WWAM.
You caught me off guard with that. I wasn't expecting this one, Will.
We want ace matches. That's what we want, all right?
Okay.
You can get behind that, right? You can get behind that.
I thought I was missing something for a second. I was like, WAM, something with racing.
No,
what is it?
No, we want ace matches as we enter the playoff stage here for KDL. But let's take a look at the overview of how things have panned out so far in the KDL just to catch everyone up to date. Of course, we started with 8 teams, and Peter, we're down to the final 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long ride coming to the postseason. season, but it's definitely been an event-filled one. So many stories that were clashed. And finally, the 3 pro teams in Guangdong Freak, Liiv, SANDBOX, and ROX didn't make it up. Aura, out of the amateur teams, also, they set a new reputation for themselves this season.
Yep, I mean, they've been looking good. A lot of people have been praising them, and they finally do make it in fact, into the top 3 even. And we'll talk about how the seeding matters for that later on as we get into the matches. But here you go, Guangdong Freaks not able to finish that elusive 7-0 record, eventually actually taking a loss to Aura in their last team match. Meanwhile, ROX able to barely get through, of course, with their incredible 5 ace match wins from Zhong, single-handedly putting them into the playoffs here.
That's a really funny thing because Guangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX, we absolutely expected them to be on top, but now we're finally here, and they're going against each other, followed by Aura and ROX, which we're going to start with in the lower bracket semifinals.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I think a lot of people who have been keeping up with any of these teams and players will agree, is that it really isn't a surprise if any 4 of these teams wins, not only today, but even gets to the grand finals and takes a victory as well. Now, of course, statistically, Guangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX a bit more favored, just given the composition of their roster and what they've shown so far, but Aura and ROX, they aren't any pushovers. There's definitely some crazy wild cards on that end as well.
Yeah, I think it especially helps that before we got into the postseason, we got to see Aura taking down Guangdong Freaks, finally giving them their first ever loss, where also we've had ROX taking a huge upset victory over Liiv SANDBOX. So they're really showing their prowess coming into the postseason.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at some of these matches. We've got a little bit of data compiled for everyone to get everyone prepped for both of the matches today. Let's take a look at the first match a bit closer. It's going to be Aura going up against ROX Esports. Now, of course, all of these teams have played against each other, and the last time these 2 teams met, Aura had a pretty handy win. I believe basically a 6-0 track score, 3-0 in both speed mode and item mode.
Yeah, but ROX, this is a new ROX we're seeing now. Up till the end, we were saying item mode for ROX, big concern. But if they beat Liiv SANDBOX, the best of the league in it, what's the new ROX going to do?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, whenever the data's ready, if we can pull those up, we have quite a bit ready for you guys. But yeah, here we go. Just overall how these teams have played against each other. Now you can see there when they faced off against each other, it was Aura taking the win. But as you mentioned, Peter, I mean, that was kind of in between all of these ace wins that ROX had, and they've been able to string together 3 afterwards, even including against, you know, the monsters, Liiv SANDBOX. So, you know, have they improved and maybe even shored up some of their weaknesses there? Meanwhile, Aura, they proved that the improvements are there. They made their progress towards their last win against Guangdong Freaks.
Yeah, you can definitely see that in their round win score, +7, +18, opposed to +1, -5. It is the story of a team that's been having a great teamwork so far, whereas ROX, they've had one shining player, and we're trying to see if the other team members can also match up to his performance.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's an incredible story in ROX Esports with Zhong being this super hard carry. Obviously, I mean, already setting, you know, kind of this record of playing 5 different ace matches against 5 different teams and 5 different racers, winning all of them, and therefore single-handedly, you know, bringing them into the playoffs. And Zhong here, you know, challenging who's next, right? Who wants to go up against me next? But the thing is, first of all, you have to get to that ace match to even try to hope for a Zhong victory.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a tall task to ask for, but they managed to do it 5 times and made it to the postseason, so you definitely got to give some magic credits to ROX. Maybe they just have what it takes, and his opponents were no, you know, newbies to the league. Insu, Speed, Acid Flight Ding, and Yoon. All these players have been hyped about and talked in the KDL.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially the fact that, you know, he was able to beat Insu, and Insu being this player who is able to play, you know, quite aggressively even in 1v1s. He's kind of known for that, where he's able to really mess with you even in a 1v1 setting. He's willing to take risks, and Zhong actually shows up and says, no, I can do one better. Right, and he takes down Insu. That was quite an impressive feat. He even actually, you know, had one of the ace matches where he was like so far ahead that he didn't even give a single draft over to his opponent. Things like that. So the big question for ROX today is going to be, you know, can they get to the ace match at all? And if that happens, can Zhong get another victory?
Yeah, I mean, Zhong, if he gets another one today, then he's just going to keep stockpiling his record. And so far in the KDL preseason, this is the man to beat in the ace match. And if he just continues to set even a more impressive flawless record, we may as well give him the whole title as maybe the best ace match player ever.
I mean, yeah, I think so, and that'd be an incredible title to lead with here in Preseason 1. Again, we're just in Preseason 1 so far. Now, we've been actually tallying up what the viewers have been predicting for this matchup. I believe this is all coming in from the Africa TV platform, so if you want to put in your vote as well, go over and check that out. But it's actually pretty close. I'm actually a little surprised about this.
I am very surprised, honestly, because I did think that Aura would be the favorites, logically. If you take out your emotion, you're like, yeah, Zhong's a great player.
Are you calling ROX esports fans emotional? Is that what's going on? That they only believe in their hearts and not their heads? Is that what's going on here?
I am actually saying that.
Okay.
Because so far, Aura, they've had such a consistent performance in both speed and item mode.
I mean, we see the other teams' predictions as well, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
the teams agree with me.
Yeah, and I would agree as well. And I think this is purely off of not just the scores they had, because obviously the match scores is the same between both teams. It's 5 wins, 2 losses in terms of overall matches. But the fact that Aura, the fashion in which they've been winning, has looked a lot more composed, a lot more commanding as well. So pretty curious. So the fans a little split from the other players and other teams, but we'll get to find out who takes that one now. Of course, after that, we've got 2 matches today. We'll talk about match 2 a little bit right now as well. This is kind of the cream of the crop, the rematch between KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, Guangdong FREECS, they were able to take a victory over Liiv SANDBOX, but the one big thing of that day was the injury that Liiv SANDBOX had. The roster all of a sudden went to a switch up, but now the roster is back that they started with. So now, Liiv SANDBOX at their full strength, what can they show us? Yeah,
I mean, because it even went to an ace match then, right? When they had to play with only 4 players. Jimin having to come into that speed mode, Neil having to play in the item mode for Liiv SANDBOX. But now they're back to the full roster of 5. Now looking at their records, I mean, no surprise here. Both teams have had quite the impressive runs here. Now, the only matches that SANDBOX has lost was actually in these ace matches, right?
Yep.
One was against KWANGDONG FREECS, World versus Insu. And then it was actually Insu versus Jung as well over against ROX esports. So, I mean, SANDBOX, again, even though they have an extra loss compared to the FREECS, they aren't necessarily objectively weaker.
For sure. I mean, Liiv SANDBOX definitely has to be the top opponent that comes to your mind when you think of a team that could take out such a giant like Guangdong FREECS. And honestly, what a matchup. I have no prediction for this one because it can go either way based on players' forms.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Now, quite frankly, KWANGDONG FREECS, they did lose against Aura in their last team match, but I gotta say they looked a bit shakier than usual that day. We'll see, you know, if that was just kind of a one-off fluke, but you can see how their ace matches have looked so far. KWANGDONG FREECS, I mean, we always hail them as this team of 4 aces, 4 runners, and they've proven it so far. World and Sungbin both entering different ace matches, both bringing home a victory. Meanwhile, I mean, Liiv SANDBOX, Neil, and Insu, while they have so much history as these great runners, as these great racers, they both lost their ace match.
But in one of their losses in ace matches, it was against Jung. So you have to wonder, do you give them some credit? Is Jung that good that it kind of like made Liiv SANDBOX look a little bit worse?
Yeah, could be. I mean, Jung could be an anomaly, of course. Curious to see what the viewers are thinking so far about this one. Let's see if we can bring that up. What does the tally say so far? Okay, leaning towards Liiv SANDBOX, though, but very close. Now, I think this one being 50-50 is not surprising, but I'm a little surprised that it's leaning towards Liiv SANDBOX.
I am siding for blue team as well. Liiv SANDBOX
oh, you're taking your pick. All right.
My choice because I feel like they have an edge over Guangdong FREECS in the item mode.
Yes.
And as long as they can secure the win in the speed mode and not go down to the ace match where they show their weakness, it should be a relatively clean 2-0 sweep, but that's, of course, talking ideally.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we'll have to just wait and see. Now, we'll take a look at what the teams have thought so far. All right, ROX and Sensation saying that they think it's actually going to be ROX thinks it's a 2-0 win for Guangdong FREECS. That's pretty daring. Sensation saying it's going to go down to an ace match. And Planet and Finale as well, both predicting ace matches here.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah, you don't think it's going to go down to an ace match?
No, I just mean that because they lost in ace matches so far, results and statistically speaking, it's not like on tune. But these teams have faced each other so many times, and they must have identified the players of Liiv SANDBOX to be really strong individually.
Yeah, I mean, especially Neil and Insu, obviously, we all know what those two can do individually. They've proven themselves in the solos in the past as well, and I think they've already both proven kind of their research and prep in Kart Rider Drift, as well as kind of these leading pioneers. So, curious to see. Now, here's the thing, bottom line, as viewers and commentators, we all win if both of these matches go to ace matches.
Right.
But I think on the team's end, obviously, They still have a couple more matches to go before they can be crowned the first winner here in Preseason 1 of the KDL. So I'm sure they would want to try to avoid that. But looks like we're getting ready here to kick off the playoffs of the KDL team matches.
I am super excited about our opening match, ROX and Aura. It's definitely, like we said earlier, Aura favored, but ROX is having that super crazy win streak right now from the ace matches, and you never know what can happen to this team.
Yeah, now going back to that match one, like you mentioned, Peter, I mean, Aura versus ROX. We'll take a look at Aura's roster here first as they enter the stage. One of the players actually almost kind of toppling over there on the side. Definitely don't want that before your semifinal race here, but the thing about Aura is that if you've been following Kartrider in general, I mean, you looked at the individual power of this roster, they were not meant to be ignored, right? They have their history, especially in terms of both speed and item mode. I mean, players like Hero, of course, kind of learning under the old Emperor Hojin back on his previous team. Meanwhile, you've got the duo of Nock and Tech, who have been such a commanding force in item mode as well, and this is a well-rounded roster here.
For sure. I mean, like I said, unlike ROX, Aura, they haven't really shown too many weaknesses outside of the fact, are they actually the best of the best at both speed and item? And honestly, if they can prove that against ROX, I think that Aura is just going to have a fantastic time moving on. But of course, if you're a ROX fan, you're still waiting for that ace match.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is that obviously, even if you're a ROX fan, you would, while it would feel nice to have a 2-0 win, I think you're also kind of like, well, it is exciting to watch Jung go into the ace match, see how far he can get. So we'll see how that plans out. Looks like Dutzy coming in with a little bit of a prop here.
Nice.
Okay, just trying to have a little bit of extra showmanship here against their opponents. Aura, Jung, of course, in the center. And I gotta also imagine what it's like to be his teammates, right? If you're a player on ROX, while you're happy that you're here, while you're happy you're in the playoffs, it also has to add some pressure that, like, well, we've always had to rely on Jung, right? We do want to try to get there on our own as well.
For sure, and keep in mind that these two teams are actually fighting for tournament life. If they lose, they are out. So it is incredibly important that they show and prove today. As we take a look at Aura, a good description of them would be they have a solid speed match and item match as we discussed, and their cheerfuls are saying, we are Aura, we have the Aura.
Yeah, and then the bottom side in Korean said, what's the MBTI of the best in Kartrider Drift? Obviously, they're trying to say it's Aura, A-U-R-A. Not sure what that would stand for in an MBTI personality test. But, I mean, Aura, they've looked impressive and just kind of taunting ROX, saying, do you want to get crushed or do you want to simply lose? Either way, you're going to lose one way or another. So Aura quite confident in their playoff match today.
Absolutely showing no sign of wanting to get that defeat today, and I'm sure that they're definitely confident. They know the stats support them. Whereas for ROX, you have to wonder, will Dutzy be able to step up today and be that consistent player they need to try to contest the 1-2?
Yeah, I mean, even in speed mode, right? Jung has always had a pretty high finish, but Dutzy was the other one that they've always hoped for. You can see it in the standings there as well, their average rank. Oh, ROX with no cheerful say, oh, serious business. Okay.
Yeah, just some wholesome waves.
Yeah,
I like it.
Fancy.
Good old-fashioned.
All right. And then just saying, you know, we can't stop here. We're still growing. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think a lot of hype behind this team. And I think one of my eyes actually on Vega, right? He was another player coming over from the KRPL along with Jung over from Kartrider Rush Plus that had a lot of hopes behind him. And quite frankly, he hasn't really performed up to the potential where he's been a reliable force even in the middle of the pack, you know, or at the end of the pack in providing support for the rest of the team.
Yeah, and we have ROX coming in just saying, you're at the level of pro teams. Here comes the real pro team.
Well, that's mean. Just because you've got funding from a pro organization, that's mean, ROX.
They're definitely stepping it up with their taunts and disses as the seasons go on, making sure that they're not getting one-upped on.
No, definitely not. And I think that's the biggest thing is that we're only nearing the end of Preseason 1, right? We've still got the rest of the year ahead of us, and both Aura and ROX have been showing progress. Now, the big question for today is who's been improving faster, right? Who's been growing just one step ahead of each other? Because if they win, they get to go on to face the next team who will be the loser of match 2. But if they lose, like you said, Peter, they're out. And ladies and gentlemen, we are now in best of 7s, of course, in the playoffs, and we actually get to keep track of the picks and bans first. Now, here's where their seeding matters, right? Aura was seeded number 3 on the leaderboard, so so they had choice of priority. They're going to decide to choose speed priority, so they get their first pick, and it's going to be World Tour Terracotta Twister.
No surprise here if you take a look at the percentages of the win rates. 75% for Aura, while only 25% for ROX. It is definitely a really good strategic choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised about this at all. I mean, this is a track where ROX has definitely struggled quite a bit. ROX going to answer back with their own choice of New York Rally. You know, just a bit of a higher rate as well. But I think the other thing about New York Rally is you can try to, you know, avoid a lot of the contact, right? Play your own build and just try to race through honest kart rider and try to get a better finish. And then they're going to actually snipe out Rickety Rails, getting it banned out away from Aura. Now, this is interesting because I believe that's a track that both teams have had targeted against them in terms of other teams banning it away from them.
Those rails are too rickety, man. What can we say? Even we don't like playing them sometimes because it's a massive skill check with the amount of turns that come in. And they're very sharp turns at that, too, as we see another ban coming in from Aura this time. Village Bayside Bridge Run, definitely a track we have seen play through a lot, and another very difficult one.
Yeah, now Village Bayside Bridge Run, an interesting fact about that for Aura is they have not played that track at all so far in the KDL Preseason 1. So clearly just wanting to avoid that, you know, for whatever reason. I mean, it's not a hard track, and in some ways that makes it a little tougher to compete on. We'll see how that comes into play. Now, Desert Construction Chaos, a map or track where both teams have only played once. I know the percentage says they have 0% win rate, but they've only played it once each, you know, one loss each, so we can't read too much into that one.
Yeah, Desert Construction Chaos, this is one where if you get drifted into the wall, you pretty much lose all momentum, as we see now. ROX picking up Mine Gold Rush. They have a 100% win rate on it, which is definitely a stat you want to have.
Ooh, Mine Gold Rush. I know, like, Dutzy and Jung, they've both looked very good on that one. Curious to see how that plays out. But we can already tell, both of the tracks that ROX has selected, they are, again, some of the wider tracks, right? Where you're able to try to avoid some of that conflict, have a little bit more of maneuverability, where you can go around, work on your own builds. Maybe they've, you know, crafted some builds for each other where they can avoid that and still be able to get into certain positions to guarantee a win. Ooh. Now we're looking at the second round of bans, and I was surprised that Zigzag hadn't been picked yet. ROX loves to play this track. Their win rate on it is not spectacular, but they love to play it. Jung is always so reliable on it, and they left it open. Eventually, Aura's going to ban that out just in case.
Yeah, I like the ban there. It definitely came just in time before ROX can pick it up. Mine Winding Slopes getting banned out by ROX, and of course now we see the pick for Aura as well. Glacier Extreme Stadium, a really popular pick for speed, and both teams boasting a pretty nice win rate for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just one of those tracks where most teams feel fairly confident on it. It just depends on, you know, what have you researched, how much have you counter-strategized the opponents as well, in terms of do you really go for it as a priority pick or do you kind of let it slide until the end? Of course, now with a best of 7, I mean, we are going to practically see almost every track in either a pick or ban, only one track being left behind at the end.
Interestingly enough, we do see Desert Pharaoh's Pass coming in, picked up by ROX, which the stats don't really support ROX wanting that, but obviously they haven't shown their full potential in this track yet, so I'm sure Aura is looking at this and feeling a bit, you know, nervous.
Yeah, Pharaoh's Pass, kind of a weird one. They lost to Planet on that one, actually. Only played it once on the side of ROX. So maybe just, you know, considering that that was just a fluke, maybe they prepped something else separately. And then we go to Boom Hill Tunnel. Aura 1-0 on that one, ROX 2-0. So both teams haven't gotten a loss yet on that track if it gets to round 7. But that was the last choice here coming in from Aura. So overall, Peter, I'm thinking if you look at it on paper, Aura gets kind of the picks and bans they want, that they expect. But I think that's what's scary about ROX, right? If they're going for some of these picks that maybe we didn't expect or not the order we expected it in, clearly they've been prepping that. Okay, we're actually going to see the item picks and bans right now as well. That way, once we start the races, we don't have to take any further breaks. We just keep jumping right in.
Yeah, and this is the really important part for ROX now, because ROX, they've only won a handful of tracks in the item mode, so we might see a repeat of the tracks they've won in so far, the first pick coming in on the Mine Magma Cavern.
Okay, all right. Now, here's the thing. I don't know how much to read into the item mode picks and bans here for ROX specifically, just because we've never really, you know, looked into it too much to begin with, right? That was not a spotlight of their career so far. Curious to see. I mean, we can already tell just from the tracks that each team has played, and one on Aura, obviously, having a bit more to show off in both Magma Cavern and Polar Halfpipe.
Yeah, Polar Halfpipe being a track that really prioritizes teamwork and communication, because when you get near the finish line, there's a lot of nuances that you have to play around specifically, especially with the items. This is where the interactions start to really matter with the boosters and magnets. It's not just about using it on the first place. You can use it in different strategic ways, like getting to the shortcut. So I like that pick, maybe identifying ROX as a weaker teamwork.
All right, and then Cogwheel Crush being banned out, no surprise there. One of the more reliable wins here for ROX. Of course, that was one of the tracks they did win in their item mode against Liiv SANDBOX as well, which eventually took them to that ace match for Jung to bring home the victory.
Yep, Cogwheel Crush, definitely a track that ROX, you don't want to give it to them. And ROX taking out Forest Mushroom Caves, which is another track that we've definitely seen Aura have some success in.
All right, now curious in the next round of picks, ROX going to keep that priority as the blue side team here, since Aura selected speed mode priority. World Tour London Night. All right, neither team having great success on this one, but ROX, what have you built up here? This is one of those tracks where, I mean, the way that you use, if you want to rely on the kind of meta-typical boost and magnet, right there at the end, there's a couple bumps that you need to watch out for in terms of your timing and the corner as well. It's a very wide 90-degree turn. So in which order you use your items can really make or break who crosses that finish line first.
Yes, and now we see right now Mind Motherload coming in for Aura, and I must say Motherload is definitely not an easy track. Not only are there items, you have to constantly be wary of the shortcuts. They make a big difference. And when you're trying to take that shortcut, if you get hit with a missile, that could be completely the end to your momentum. So a lot of diversity on that track.
All right, just a couple more tracks left here. Istanbul Sunset Plaza going to be banned out next from Aura. Take that one out. Obviously one of the more wider tracks, even within item mode here, fairly standard. Just doesn't want to have to deal with that one against ROX Esports. Now, curious to see what goes on. I mean, in terms of ban priority for Aura, I mean, you can't really choose one or the other in terms of Cogwheel and Istanbul. I think they just kind of went for the ones that were left because the biggest priority for ROX was always going to be Magma Cavern, and obviously they picked that first, having that item mode priority.
Yep, and now ROX. You have to wonder, because Aura has had 6 out of 7 wins of sets in item mode, what do you ban when they have so many success and so little failures? And that's going to be Desert Pharaoh's Pass. We haven't necessarily seen Aura lose there, so that is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, 3-1 record so far in item mode here for Pharaoh's Pass here from Aura. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all wins though, right? And ROX just saying, all right, well, that's been left open. You guys haven't picked it. We're not going to take any risks. We're going to leave that to be banned. Now, this is what's interesting to me. I mean, in terms of priority pick, Aura, London has been a priority pick for them. So has Pharaoh's Pass. The fact that they didn't pick those early, in fact, ROX actually picks London Knight earlier in round 3, and then eventually has to ban on Pharaoh's Pass. Curious, I mean, Aura perhaps expecting those to be banned out ahead of time, right? And preparing some of these other tracks. So curious to see what the preparation is here.
Now, we do see Gangnam Streets being picked up by ROX, and Gangnam Streets is a very wide track.
Super wide.
So it is lining up with the logic kind of that ROX does prefer the wider tracks, and Aura was trying to ban those out. But you can't ban them all.
Yeah, you can't ban them all. And in item mode, I mean, one of the reasons is it just kind of leaves more room to be open. You don't have to have very specific builds. You can always try to rely on whatever you've got in terms of if you're able to keep the lead as well. And the way you use those boosts and magnets can be a bit more straightforward on the wider tracks. But we'll see how things go through. Now, Glacier Icebreaker Pass coming out from Aura. Again, that's one of the tracks where there's that narrow tunnel at the end, right? And shields and barriers, those can kind of make or break the difference. You can't just rely on the magnet and boost combo to cross the finish line. Definitely
a lot of emphasis on teamwork tracks for Aura, and now ROX rounding it out with Factory, Brody's Gloom. And they definitely have found success in the Factory track so far, which is the new Tema coming into KDL. And honestly, I really like that last pick from them.
Okay, so here's just an overview of how things have gone through so far in the picks and bans. This is speed mode overall. Looking at it on paper, I would say Aura looking a bit favored, or at least getting perhaps the expected tracks somewhat predictable, but you got to also expect, if it is predictable, ROX, what have you prepared? Why are you not throwing any crazy curveballs here?
I mean, that is definitely a good point. You would assume that ROX having that disadvantage slightly, they would want to throw in their hidden trump cards here, bring out some crazy strats, but it's been pretty typical so far.
Yeah, and then we're going to see, of course, I mean, ROX taking out both rickety rails and winding slopes. No surprise there. Aura, the fact that they were willing to leave Zigzag out, it really makes me think that they simply just don't want to ever play Bayside Bridge Run. Right. They're still avoiding that track for the entirety of Preseason 1, so that just shows us a little bit more insight into Aura's mindset.
Bayside Bridge Run definitely is a track that brings a lot of diversity to the table, as we saw some fans there and a player for ROX as well. And of course, but now we are ready for our track number 1 in speed, World Tour Terracotta Twister.
And the race begins. Track 1 out of 7 between Aura and ROX.
Here we go. We see Hero completely in the lead right now. C's having fantastic blocks on Jung. Jung trying to come back in with the tighter lines.
Yeah, C's has actually been one of the more crucial players here as we see some collisions over on the side of Aura. He's either always been playing second fiddle for Hero to set him up like we see right now.
Oh my,
C's! Oh wow, C's actually combating 2 to 3 people, but this is what he's good at. If he's not setting up for Hero, he's actually getting set up by Knock. He's always been that linchpin that Aura has wanted for these 1-2 finishes.
You look at Hero, he's so far ahead, and C's once again trying to play the block game of 3 people spell. He fell behind. ROX completely out of their game today.
Yeah, Vega hitting a bump there. I've actually seen him hit that bump a couple times in the past as well on Terracotta Twister, always trying to find a new build or something like that on the side of Vega, but not able to keep up his speed. Now it's up to Dutzy and Spell. I mean, sure, we can always rely on Jung eventually catching up somehow, but definitely not to Hero with the way things are right now on the track.
You can see C's is not even playing sweeper anymore. He's trying to maintain that 1-2 until a member of ROX gets close enough, which is when I'm sure he will press that decelerate button. Dutzy now getting pretty close, but still out of draft range.
Oh, and look at this. I was looking at it on the map earlier, but Knock has been keeping Jung tied up at the back, not allowing Jung to catch up and try to play support or even get into the top 3 here. Jung, he's not going to have much of a chance. C's nice recovery. He's going to stay alive. He's still in contention against Dutzy and Spell.
Yeah, C's almost went completely out of line there, but now he's back and tried to block out Dutzy and Spell. He's doing that again. Look at that. Spell and Dutzy
oh my gosh,
crashes into the wall.
Yeah, forcing these errors from the ROX players. ROX had a slight lead in points for a brief moment, but it looks like it's going to be yet another 1-2 finish here for Hero and C's. That's their 15th 1-2 finish in speed mode team matches so far in the preseason 1 of KDL.
I love how they split up the roles. Knock and C's playing sweeper roles so brilliantly well, while Hero and Navi were really trying to secure their positions to give their team a nice point advantage, and it worked out beautifully. A dominant 1-2.
I mean, this was just kind of textbook play here from C's, and you know, we can talk about Hero, just what a good runner he is. We've obviously talked about Knock both in speed mode and as the Knock Tech duo in item mode, but I think C's really deserves that spotlight from here on out because he's proving that the couple times he's done it in the past, it wasn't a fluke. This is something he's been working on here for his teammates on Aura.
This is exactly what we wanted to see from Aura in terms of consistency so far, because they are the more consistent team in speed, we have to say so far, when you compare them against ROX, because ROX face a lot more losses. As we take a look at the replay, this was the moment when C's pretty much was able to block out 3 members of ROX alone.
Yeah, well, and the way he does it is he's not always in the middle of the fight. Sometimes he's allowing them to pressure each other. He takes the outer line. Meanwhile, of course, this was a clip where Vega hitting that bump again, trying to get too close to the edge of the corner. But the way C's plays this, the way that he weaves in between both of their lines, as he knows that one of them is going to try to actually stop him, right? Sweep him so that their teammate can get ahead. And C's just says, all right, you guys fight amongst each other. I'll go ahead, get that 1-2 finish.
Yeah, and Dutzy tried to take the ideal line there at the end. You have to wonder, that definitely had to have come from the pressure that C's was putting on him. But now we're ready for track number 2, World Tour New York Rally. Off we go into the track picked by ROX themselves. We're seeing a lot of congestion right now. Players looking for the instant boosts.
Yeah, now at Terracotta Twister, I mean, that was never a track that ROX was good at. I mean, we can see see it just the way it played out against Aura as well. So if you're a ROX racer right now, you just got to put that behind you and say this is the best of 7. There's still a long way to go. Let's see what we can do here. Vega almost colliding into the wall, but nice recovery to be able to come back and support his teammate at Dutzy.
Yeah, and Spell falling behind there a little bit. Maybe he wanted to go for a sweep, but it didn't really work out. And now we see, once again, pretty dominant positions for Aura. Dutzy and Vega, the hope for ROX.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If Dutzy and Vega can keep on to the 2-3 some way as Vega starts to get pressured, Jung will always be able to try to find an opening to catch back up, either get that 2-3-4, maybe even help contest for that top spot. My eyes are there. I mean, does Aura once again make sure that Jung just cannot break out of 6th, 7th, 8th place?
Well, we are seeing Jung breaking out right now. He passed the sweepers of Aura, and now it's a 2-3-4 for ROX.
And this is what ROX is good at. This is how they win. It was very clear that on Terracotta Twister, Aura had studied that they had a plan. But right now, with Nock being the only one way far ahead, it's got to be C's who can catch back up, try to break this 2-3-4 formation.
And he's trying to do that right now, but his first step is to get through Dutzy. But now Vega is playing that sweeper role pretty well up until now. He fell behind. Now it's just a 1-4-5 and a 2-3 for ROX.
If they finish right now, the Aura can win. They can block away the 2-3-5-7. If Hira can hold on to 5th place, Aura will be able to get the point advantage, and they get it once again.
Wow,
ROX
Aura
only to get 2-3-6-7. I mean, the comms must have been crazy on the side of Aura, just understanding if Nock can hold on to 1st place, they have a win condition.
That was so incredible how they managed to turn that around. The comms definitely paying off big time for Aura. You can tell that this is a team that never loses their focus right up until the end, winning by just a single point in the team score.
Great. I mean, just well played. And I mean, of course, this is all thanks to Nock being able to retake that 1st place position, but I think he must have always been aware that he needs to have one more opening there at the last straightaway to be able to get there, right? Trying to keep an eye on, can we win any other way? If not, I gotta be the one who gets in the 1st place. But just great understanding. You can already tell Jung's starting to get a little bit nervous here. I mean, yes, it is a best of 7, but you're already down 2-0. If Aura is able to get the next track as well, which was their pick over on Construction Chaos, I mean, they're gonna be over on set point here.
Definitely not what you want to see as ROX. You wanted to win speed no matter what, because there you have a better chance of winning against Aura than in item mode. Sure, you won against Liiv SANDBOX in item mode, but you've only done that once. We can't really count that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not reliable statistics, right? And you could have, prepared whatever you want in scrims, but again, we haven't seen it here on the stage. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the nerves are starting to pile up on ROX as they try to make a comeback here against Aura on Desert Construction Chaos. And the race begins. Meanwhile, just a quick shout out to Reboot's Looning, who still currently holds the record here in team matches. Of course, no longer in the playoffs, but curious to see ROX. I mean, this is not a track that they have a lot of good experiences on.
Definitely not, but Dutzy holding that 1 position is definitely what ROX wants, because Jung, he's going to find the angle to come into the top 4, while Vega, he can just play sweeper role, knocking out C's.
Yeah, now Aura, they also never had a victory. They've only played it once so far, but in the style that they have against ROX, in relativity, I have to say they do seem better primed, but my curiosity is, what does C's have prepared for us here in the difficult sections as we go through the construction area? I mean, he's got to have ways to be able to block off the rest of ROX.
This is where collision happens very frequently because the track is super narrow. There's so many sharp 90-degree turns, and so far, we have seen some collisions happen, but no one completely lost their momentum here.
Yeah, but C's understanding right there in the little zigzag. Of course, a lot of racers just tending to decelerate, so he just stops to block Jung from potentially trying to instant boost past him, but Jung eventually able to build up enough speed to catch back up. Now, he's contending for Hero, so C's understands. You can already tell in the way that C's is playing that he wants to catch back up, provide support for Jung, leaving Navi to contest against Vega.
The big problem for ROX right now is Dutzy, the player that we want to see helping Jung get some of that 1-2 or at least that top 4 contention, is all the way in the back, and now ROX is behind 3 points overall. They need to keep the positional advantages. Jung with the 1st place.
Yeah, ROX trying to get in a decent position, but there's 3 players on his back. But now everyone from ROX catching up. Of course, as we enter the construction, everyone's going to be bunched up again, and there's so much potential for one of these players to get a hard stop there at the 90-degree zigzag to try to create chaos.
The 1-2 being maintained beautifully by Aura here. Jung is the only contender to try to break that, and Navi catches up and tackles Jung.
Oh man, once
Momentum
again,
lost.
this is it. You always expect people to decelerate, and if you're able to just get ahead of them, they cannot boost past you. They're in the zigzag. A great understanding here from Aura. Navi just sweeping as much as possible, even in the air, because they have the 1-2. Yet again, just a spin turn celebration from Hero because he's so far ahead. 3-0 lead here in speed mode.
Man, this combo and Aura is so good. This is what we expected from them, honestly, because their 1-2 combo has been super consistent. They maintained a 13 consecutive 1-2 victories so far, and they've even won 14 out of 17 rounds in speed mode total. So that means most of their victories did come from 1-2, and they are showing that again today.
Yeah, I mean, as I was mentioning before, I mean, a lot of those, again, it is the Hero Seas combo, and when it's not, it's Seas and Nox. So Seas clearly always having the potential to get into first place, but if Hero's ahead of him, Hero loves, you know, if he's able to have no competition, he's more than happy to try to set new records, and Seas will play second fiddle if that can bring home the victory. But Aura, just a force to be reckoned in these team modes here, especially in speed mode, the way they're playing. Curious to see if they'll eventually climb back up and challenge one of the Titans, you know, in the Guangdong FREECS to Liiv SANDBOX. We're not out of the woodwork yet, though. Even speed mode right now, still a best of 7. But if ROX wants to win, they gotta go for a 4-track consecutive win comeback.
A full reverse sweep in the best of 7. If they make that happen, then Jung is going to be very happy, and so are the fans, because we want to see Jung get to that ace match, but we are now ready for our track number 4, Mine Gold Rush. We start the race off in ROX's choice of track, and actually it's Aura Hero maintaining the best record of this track. So Aura, they have a 2-3-4 looking really good.
Yeah, curious to see if Hero once again will be able to just boost ahead, you know, without anyone contending for that top spot. Knock now in position to make sure he sets up Hero for that, but this is that secret to Aura's success. Spell understands that very well, regardless of what position he's usually playing. Right now, his mission is to make sure that Hero does not get out of his sights.
But the problem with that is Aura has such a huge positional advantage right now. Vega and Jung all the way down in 7th and 8th place. Not what you want to see, but this is a 2-lapper, so they do have a little bit of a breathing room to recover. Yeah,
good understanding from Spell here, though. He was trying to get ahead of Knock here on the last jump as well, just try to get another bump away from him, gain that momentum. Spell doing that continuously, but Knock finds a nice opening, does greet that a little bit, hits the corner, but Sees now in position. This is just fine for Aura. They're used to this scenario where it's a 1-2 from Hero and Sees yet again.
Yeah, this is a repeat of that strategy. Hero having such a big, sizable lead, maintaining that first position best he can, and now it's up to Knock and Sees to try to sweep and take in at least that second position.
Yeah, Hero once again so far ahead, but ROX, they got to start to consider, do we just go for the 2-3-4 here?
Look at the lines!
Yeah, I mean, they have a good positioning, and the way ROX plays that, his teammates actually pressure in a way that it opens up the inner line for Dutsy to be able to just really drift through.
Wow.
Now it's a good setup from ROX, but everyone's still bunched up away from Hero. So now the question is, ROX, can you get 2-3-4 or 2-3-5-7?
Yeah, Dutsy's still maintaining that lead because he still took the tightest drifts ever and it worked out for him so far uncontested. But now he is contested by Knock and Vega coming in.
If Vega can get up. No, Dutsy actually loses second place as well. Knock's gonna get it right there at the end. In the last U-turn into the 90-degree. A great reversal. Another 1-2 finish. I mean, absolutely incredible. You gotta start to imagine that even the FREECS and SANDBOX are reevaluating Aura, because if they're winning most of their speed mode tracks with a 1-2 finish, I mean, you just simply cannot beat that.
This team is the team of 1-2 punches. Hero, he makes it so easy for his team to get that 1-2 because look at that. He set a new track record. He is a god at maintaining such high distances between himself and the rest of the players. And we gotta give credit to the teamwork of Aura as well. Navi, Knock, and Sees being that sweeper, being able to buy that time for Hero.
Yeah, and while we've obviously been praising especially Knock and Seize a lot here today, I think it's worth mentioning Navi as well. If he's always somewhere in the middle of the pack, that's another point that Aura can rely on, where they can now just focus on either Hero or Seize getting that first place finish and really revolving their win conditions around having the #1 spot. I mean, Navi rarely really always getting pushed down to something like 8th place. He's always contending somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
But that's going to be a quick ending to the speed mode, and now ROX, they once again have to rely on this unreliable item mode record that they have.
Yeah, Plansy coming in. He did look a little bit dazed there. Maybe he's strategizing, thinking about all the different new meta stuff they're going to pull out today, or perhaps even nervous because now a lot of pressure is on Plansy to be that item ace. ROX needs to repeat a miracle turnaround in item mode. They managed to do it against Liiv SANDBOX, and if they do it against Aura, who is another great item mode team, having that tech being swapped in, it's going to be a big story.
Yeah, there he is on screen, Tech. And here's the thing, you mentioned Plansy. He's got to really be able to showcase what they've cooked up on the side of ROX, but you're going up against Tech and Knock, right? The Knock-Tech duo here over on the side of Aura. I mean, what can you do? Fans saying, Aura, we'll see you again. Imagining that they'll get the victory, they'll get to continue to come back to the stage here in the playoffs.
Yeah, and right now we can see the item track list once again. We see Magma Cavern being prioritized by ROX, which is a track that I'm not sure why they picked, to be honest. They don't have a stellar win rate on it.
Yeah, no, they like to pick it. They've always liked picking it, but they also just don't have any wins actually over on Magma Cavern. But we also need to remember they barely have any wins in item mode to begin with, right? So
yeah.
how much can we really rely here on the statistics? But if they've been picking it, clearly that's a track that they think they have a good plan on, that they've been practicing. They're once again prioritizing it. The question is, I mean, can you finally showcase it today?
ROX's best track was Cogwheel Crush with a 100% win rate on 2 matches, but it's been banned out. And now we had a fan for Aura, of course, believing in a win for the item mode. And why wouldn't you as a fan for Aura? They are great at item mode, but now we are ready for item track #1, My Magma Cavern.
And item mode begins. Aura currently with the 4-0 speed win. Feeling very comfortable in this battle against ROX.
Tech, the item ace, the only one that actually slowed down to pick up the double items. No one from ROX did that. I do find that very interesting because ROX, they could be taking this with the strategy of coming in, taking it fast, getting the positional advantages rather than the diverse items.
Okay, so Aura already just cycling through an Angel here just to try to keep up, but also trying to fish for the other items that they might have. Ooh. Now, this is my big question. If ROX is aware of that, this is one of those tracks, we even actually saw it on Sunday, where you can, or on Wednesday rather, where you can actually get a good setup towards the end there, right as the bridge ends, with a good water balloon, good barricade, something like that, where the shields will actually come in handy. So ROX, I mean, are you keeping good track of what Aura is cycling through?
Yeah, the Angels are definitely going to be key in their final lap as all of those offensive capabilities come out. We're already seeing some of that repetition, water bombs being used, knocking out a player. Dutzy shields out that water wisp.
Yeah, Dutzy just trying to stay in the lead. Dutzy currently with a Magnet and Nitrous as well. So with that boost, he's gonna not mind giving up first place. He's happy to stay in second and third. He'll always have an option to try to slingshot forward. Aura once again cycling through an extra Angel. They're only keeping that one on Knock. So ROX, I mean, if you can try to pile on, you've got, some items that you want to work with. This is a good chance to set up here in lap 3.
And a very interesting strategy right now for Seize, who had only a shield and a booster. He's going to use that right away because he did fall behind in positions. Now, it's Jung and Dutzy trying to fight with Hero. Hero going for that water wisp, blocked out by the Angel.
Yeah, the Rockets are starting to come in as well. They've got quite a few, and that's going to just lock up Hero, but Jung gets hit by a water bomb himself. Seize now with a water bomb. Lightning slows everybody down, but Aura, they're going to be able to speed ahead. A barricade not going to matter with that last Angel coming in. They've been holding on to that. They kept making it look like they were cycling through their Angels, and they just saved that one for the last bit.
That Angel blocked out a water bomb and the barricade. absolute brilliant usage of that Angel, getting 2 offensive items out with 1. And it's going to be Seas who manages to secure a item track win for Aura here.
Man, I mean, I was wondering, ROX actually trying to get a good read here, imagining that if they can start to pile on, a lot of their offensive items there in lap 3, they'll be able to, try to power through whatever they have. But Aura understanding that all they needed was 1 Angel. They actually overtake that first place right before with the triple missiles, and then they're able to just Angel through.
Yeah, and at the end there, that lightning striking was absolutely devastating because it slows down your whole team. At that point, your only chance of recovery is the magnet, which we did see coming in from ROX. However, it just wasn't enough because Aura had such a good teamwork, and they made sure that Seas did not lose his momentum.
Well, ROX backs up against the wall, see if they can finally get a single track win. They might be here for an 8-0 shutout. If not, as we go into track 2 of item mode between the 2 teams, it's Glacier, Polar, Half-Pipe.
In our round number 2 in item mode of lower bracket semifinals, Tech once again going for his trusty old 2-item strategy.
Yeah, he's gonna cycle through the EMP. Don't need that right now. Just trying to see what else he can get. Gets a second magnet. Now, of course, this is one of those tracks where you do have that upper floor here on the boost if you want to. And we've seen teams where one person boosts, the other magnets forward, and both of you are able to kind of take that shortcut on the upper side.
Now we see our players taking it very slow. No one took the shortcut, and everyone is just rocking by side because this is a 3-lapper, right? And right now we're gonna see a lot of water bombs and whips being traded. Magnets are the ones that are being held on to.
Yeah, Plansy and Tech both holding on to a water bomb. Wouldn't be surprised if both of them cycle through that. We're gonna actually see it come out right now. Slow spell down, but he's not gonna get caught up in it just yet. Meanwhile, everyone saving up their magnets. They want to wait to see, do we save double magnets? Do we cycle one out to try to go for an extra boost or something like that? I mean, curious, because you're going to have to start considering, do I use that right now or not? We've actually got double lightning on the side of Hero as well. He's going to use one right now just to slow everyone down, but I got to imagine he saves the other one for lap 3.
Definitely. Right now, Hero still definitely putting emphasis on that lightning, seeing a lot of value there. They're trying to bait out the Angels from the side of ROX as much as possible before that 3rd lap, but ROX, they do have 1 on Dudsy still.
Yeah, we just saw there Jung trying to avoid a potential water bomb, but it doesn't come through, so he's just going to try to cash back up to the rest of his team. We're going to enter lap 3. Already a boost and magnet over on the side of Nock, and then his faithful duo Tech has the Angel and the magnet. I gotta imagine Nock and Tech, they might look to both go onto that upper floor. At that point, ROX, are you ready to instantly latch on with your magnets from the bottom floor?
We've seen that strategy before, but the water bomb, it's a 3-man. That's huge.
Yeah, it just lands right away, and while Hero's able to get to the upper line, Tech, his Angel didn't come through in time. Now Hero has to get up to first place, but he doesn't have any items. He's only going to have 1 chance to get an item here to make a difference, but it's not going to be enough. Nock finds out. He does catch up with a magnet right now. Can they hold on to it? Sees and Nock just blocking for...
Oh, from nowhere, but it's Nock who manages to hold on to that lead and finishes in first place for his team.
Oh man, Seas actually gets pulled back just a bit there towards the end, but Nock still there to cross the finish line. Jung actually getting, his magnet pulling himself back a little bit, not able to keep that straightaway speed gain. And it's going to be another track here for Aura.
You have to see the relief on the faces on the members of Aura there, because 2-3-4 for ROX. If Nock didn't have that position, it could have been a set going over to ROX, and that's definitely dicey if you're Aura, because you don't want to give that hope to ROX. You want to continue on this full stomp domination and keep their morale low.
Yeah, remember what their taunt was at the beginning? Do you want to get crushed or do you want to just lose, right? You want to get beaten up or you want to just lose? And clearly right now, Aura saying you don't have a choice. We are actually just going to crush you and try to go for a clean sweep in both modes. See how some of the highlights pan out here for track number 2, but I mean, we see there at the end, oh,
Seas,
oh, this was lap 2, yeah, just a spin turn missile as well. We've seen that a couple times, but again, I mean, that prevents Dusty from being able to catch up and cycle through his items in time.
And this is where things were really crazy, because we thought Jung would make it, but he got slowed down by the magnet, so he decelerated, and it gave room for Seas to finish that one off. Or Nock.
Yeah, Knock eventually gets through. So Knock actually, C is actually taking all the aggro, and we've talked about that before on item mode as well, where, you know, if you have two people up front, one of them, your role is to try to draw out that aggro so the other person can just kind of coast through. That's exactly what happens here for Aura. We'll see ROX. Now, this was your next pick in World Tour London Night. Can you make a difference as we get into track number 3? Aura currently 6 tracks in a row, victories on their side as they race against ROX Esports here in the playoffs of the first preseason of KDL.
ROX, they definitely don't want to lose here in London Night and go to a match point for Aura in track number 4 because they have not much chances left at this point. London Night is a track they have a victory record in, so hopefully they're able to relive that moment and find the good strategies.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is one where the boost, actually, we've seen a couple victories purely off of the boost coming in towards the last corner. Of course, you know, if the opponents do have Magnus, you're going to have to be careful. Now, this is what I was talking about. As you cross that ferry here, there are these 2 bumps that you want to watch out for when you use your boost to try to maintain that acceleration. And then, of course, it's a 90-degree turn where you don't want to actually swing out too far if you use the magnet yourself.
You see Plansy starting to get slowed down a bit by the missile, but Dutsy is quite far ahead. Aura, they managed to knock him down with a beautifully timed missile there. And now, we are currently looking at 3 to 4 magnets, 3 angels, definitely some good items for both teams.
Yeah, so C's, once again, right now, if he stays the way he is, he's just playing aggro, right? He's just happy to draw out any of the targeting coming in from ROX. Hero actually just trying to make sure C's can stay far, far ahead. And I think this, if anything, this actually puts more of that crosshair onto C's, but C's just has a shield and an angel. Really, who's set up for the victory here is Hero. He's holding on to the double boost. He's not using any of them. He's meaning to use these towards the last corners.
C's is also holding on to his shield and angel. He hasn't swapped it out for any other items. Now, we do see Hero falling back quite a bit. Now it's only C's in the front, up with 3 members of ROX.
Yeah, he actually uses one early to try to catch up, and he's going to get dragged back behind. Now Knock way up front with an angel, but Spell just trying to boost forward, and he's actually acting as that bull anchor for his teammates. Jung, can he stay ahead? No, he gets magnet behind, but a nice block from Plansy, as Plansy actually gets bumped across the finish line himself. ROX Esports, finally a track victory for themselves in item mode.
Yeah, I really love the maneuver at the end, dodging out the barricade nicely. There wasn't even a need for an angel to be used in order to collide with it without any penalty. And honestly, ROX definitely felt a lot more in control in this track, showing why they picked it as their second choice, and finally putting up some fighting chance, a score on the board against Aura.
Yeah, and I think a big important thing is ROX clearly understanding what the setup here was from Aura, right? Just making sure that Hero actually isn't ever in contention with the fact that Hero's happy to let his teammate C's get way far ahead. I think ROX had a good understanding of, okay, let's just make sure Hero doesn't get anywhere close to the top spot, and they had a chance. Now, here's a fan coming over from Kartrider Rush Plus cheering for Jung and Vega, 2 racers who have now hopped over to the new universe of Kartrider Drift. Well, they're keeping their hopes alive for now as they are trailing 1-2, trying to win this item mode to go to an ace match for their speed ace. Jung, we'll see if we can get there as we enter Mine Mother Load.
We begin our track number 4 of item mode here in the Mine Mother Load, picked by Aura themselves. We're seeing a lot of water bombs. I want to see how they throw this one.
Yeah, we've seen some crazy water bombs, right? It seems like those are, you know, obviously the tried and true item, you know, very traditional. You're used to seeing them, so you don't expect too much from it. But yeah, I mean, again, this track, very narrow positions, like you mentioned before, Peter. So if you really save them for the right time and the other team has been cycling through their angels like crazy, they're going to get caught by one of them.
Yeah, but now Nog maintaining the lead with the double shield, looking to draw out the aggro. He does pop one shield there to block out the water, or the missile there. And honestly, I love the strategy from Aura. They keep repeating this. When a player picks up a shield, they go to the front to absorb the aggro.
Yeah, just good setups. Meanwhile, we did see Dutzy just taking the outer course there just for an extra item. Instantly catches back up with the instant boost, but he will get slowed down by a banana. Now entering lap 2 of 3.
Now we see Planty in the lead with double magnet, and the Angel going to be popped preemptively to dodge out the water bomb. And now we see a lot of just magnets and boosters being held across the board. That does seem to be the major meta here in Mine Motherlode.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of drops, there's a lot of jumps here on My Motherlode, so the magnets can do some extra damage compared to what they usually might be used for. Jung just choosing to try to go for an extra item there. Just going to get a banana for his trouble, so he cycles through that right away.
Now we see a huge positional lead for ROX right now, holding a 1-2-3-5. And we are moving into the third lap. Every single player dodging out that barricade beautifully.
Yeah, Tech tries to speed ahead to get into position for a setup. Now he is going to be in contention that entire time with a single boost on his side. Meanwhile, C's with a magnet and boost himself. Now the question is, C's Tech as he gets slowed down. Now the question is, C's, do you just have to try to get ahead and make sure you slingshot in, or are you still playing aggro to try to set up for knock here?
Yeah, both the first and second place players got targeted by the Magnus being slowed down. Now it's Planty speeding across, and Angel was popped preemptively, and he's holding on to a water bomb in first position.
Yeah, just sends that out right now, but Sees and Planzy, a bit of mind games here with the magnets for each other. Planzy actually happy to just play aggro and slow them down as Knock actually gets stopped! He gets knocked out, a KO with that missile.
That missile completely stopped all momentum there. Planzy able to speed across and once again bring a score on the board for ROX, tying it up 2-2.
What a play, the missile right at the end as well. I mean, it looked like Spell might have been in a good position himself to try to get through, but it was actually just going, or Planty only on his own rather, but it was actually just going to be the missile to really seal the deal here as Knock gets hit as he's trying to overtake in the last couple meters.
It's just so incredible to me right now that ROX, despite such a rough start to their day, is able to find the comeback angle here in the item mode against Aura. Another excellent team. And honestly, you have to wonder, is ROX an item mode team now?
I mean, maybe. You got to find your answer, right? You know, if it's not going to be reliable in speed, maybe you have to switch over. Now, you know, it's too early to say for the time being, but clearly, I think they're showing better understanding. I mean, we can see it here. Planty just playing to try to set up Spell as that aggro, but they actually intentionally do this because they know they have that extra missile they've been seeing, you know, keeping track of how Aura's been cycling through. You know that in that last uphill, most teams are going to want to prioritize the magnets and boosts as well. So just hiding that missile from under the hill, and then it's just really pops it. And a lot of the Aura fans just hoping that they play again tomorrow, right? They're hoping that they get that victory. But right now, ROX is fighting back tooth and nail. Yeah,
the hands were literally held together in prayer to see Aura tomorrow, the fans said. And hopefully, here in track number 5, we're getting into World Tour Gangnam Street. Will Aura or ROX be able to continue their lead?
And they're off. Aura now the one losing momentum, so curious to see, you know, if ROX is able to just keep up, or if Aura will have to find a rejuvenated pattern here in item mode. Now all eyes are on Tech. Of course, the item ace coming in for Aura.
Holding on to those sneaky water bombs. It actually attempted to get dodged out by Planzy, but it hits both members of ROX, and the Banana was able to knock out a member of Aura.
Yeah, just a little bit of early aggression here. Now, of course, as we get through the rest, one of the wider tracks here overall in Kart Rider, so the water bombs barricade's not going to do too much trouble. Obviously, you can try to get a really sick timing on it, but that's just going to come down to comms from each other as well.
And now we see Tech holding onto that shield, so that's why he took that first place lead, but now they are falling behind because the members of ROX are also fighting back for their positions. The shields are still being held by Aura.
Yeah, you know, Aura, it seems like Tech intentionally always trying to fall behind to the middle of the crowd just so he has a better understanding of what to call here for the side of Aura, making sure one of his teammates can try to be the one crossing the finish line. As you mentioned, he's the one holding on to the Angels, the defensive support as well. So he's in no rush to try to cross the finish line himself. He just wants to be aware of what the situation is here across the track. As Jong, a little bit of a corner cutting there with the instant boost to just try to stay in contention.
Yep, and now we see the Angels being cycled through for Aura, moving in to the third lap. We are almost there right now as we take a look at the items. Not cast the Lightning. I love this strategy from Aura. It puts a lot of pressure on ROX here. They did not manage to use an Angel against that because they didn't have one.
Well, and that's what you get by using that Lightning right as you enter lap 3. You understand that they clearly don't have a shield or Lightnings here. I mean, can you really imagine that they're saving it if they have more than 2 or something like that? So now Aura with a good understanding that you can try to go for these aggressive setups here in the last lap.
Now we have C's far in the lead, Jung trying to catch up, but a lot of players are holding on to their magnets for the time being. The barricade.
Yeah, the barricade. It's things like that. Once again, everyone from ROX gets hit by him. Now, Dutzy does hold on to a UFO, but there's 2 players ahead of everyone from ROX. Can they take down all the members of Aura right now?
He's looking for that booster. Hold on. He's got a shield to combo with it as well. Knock gets knocked back, and it's now C's who maintains that lead with the shield, comboed with the booster. Aura coming back with a win. Now it's 3-2 against ROX.
And I think a lot of this comes down to that Lightning being used as they enter lap 3. Just really fishing for information, gets a good understanding. All right, well, you're still not using any shields. You still don't have your Angels. So we'll just make sure that we constantly slow you down in a group. We can get through any of the barricades or water bombs because we have double Angels. And Aura with a nice win.
I would definitely assume maybe you would want to hold on to that Lightning till a moment that matters, and sometimes that could be near the end of lap number 3. But as you said, Will, it doesn't have to be always near that, last 500 meters. You can plan things out in advance to try to fish out the enemy's Angels, or if they don't have it, actually use it in advance. And that's what really makes Aura a good diverse item mode team as we take a look at the replay here. Tech with the water bomb and Plancy.
Yeah, Plancy gets bumped into it, yeah. A little bit. Not sure if intentionally set up by C's or not, but either way, a bit of a combo play there for the water bomb.
I wonder if the banana had a role in that. I mean, probably not,
maybe,
but it just like coincidentally happened at the same time that it just looks really comical.
I mean, you can get some funny moments here in item mode for sure. A little bit of a different flavor of Kart Rider Drift. But right now, it's going to be match point for Aura as they lead 3-2 in item mode. They already won speed mode. ROX, can they keep their tournament lives alive here on Glacier Icebreaker Pass?
Off we go in round number 6 of item mode. So far, we have Aura holding that 1-2 position. This is going to be a 3-lapper. Finally, we see Spell matching what Tech is doing. Right away in the beginning, he goes for 2 items.
Yeah, and again, I mean, in the very beginning, here's the thing. You're always going to have a decent catch-up mechanic in item mode here in Kart Rider Drift. So you want to prioritize your probability of being able to cycle through, get the items you want, always be able to save up at least one crucial one.
Ooh, Jong.
Yeah, just a bit of a spin turn to try to get an attack, but he actually pays for his troubles himself and is just going to have to restock up. But a nice barricade. Now, again, it can play a good role here. We just saw C's having to power through that one.
And I saw a sneaky banana to the right as Planty was coming into the tunnel. So that is now a point to watch out for. You never know when a player's going to fall for that because they could go to the right to avoid collisions and get punished.
Yeah, again, that tunnel is really the focal point here for Icebreaker Pass. The rest of the track fairly straightforward. Of course, you have a couple areas where you can drop off, but that rarely happens here in item mode.
And I feel like Aura are having so much success finding the Lightnings, and they manage to always connect it onto ROX when they're unable to defend against it.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, Aura, double Angels on Tech, so he decides, well, no one else on my team has any, so I'll hold on to both of these. You guys just cycle through to make sure you're set up. Tech now cycling 1 for that boost, but meanwhile, everyone else on the side of ROX, they're only focused on prioritizing the magnets and boost. Now, if ROX wants to win with this type of arsenal, they're gonna have to use these right before they enter the tunnel or right as they exit. You cannot try to use it during the tunnel because it's so hard to overtake because it's a very narrow pathway.
It's all serious business here now in lap number 3. I was excited to see another sneaky banana in the tunnel, and that is going to play a role. However, Tech is holding on to the Angel, and you look at the items. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, but no, that Angel is going to find no use. Meanwhile, we do have a UFO from Jung as well, so I imagine Spell, okay, he's going to purposely fall behind. This is going to slow down Tech, but here's the thing, he's already been set up as the anchor pool for the rest of Aura. Now, ROX, can they try to catch up? Dutsy's already used all his items.
Getting slowed down.
The UFO! One more comes in play from ROX as ROX. We have Spell coming in, tying it up 3-3.
Man, you rarely see a UFO coming in so clutch near the end there, but that was exactly what happened. Tech got completely stopped out of his momentum, and ROX able to capitalize that so beautifully. And as you said, we are 3-3, and we weren't sure, this being a best of 7, if we will go all the way down to that round 7, but here we are.
Yeah, you know, Peter, we were talking about it actually before the broadcast as well, and I know you asked me, I mean, who do you favor? And I kept saying, you know, maybe ROX has something, and you were like, I don't know, the stats don't say so, but this is why you can't help but imagine ROX will never go down that easily. There's something about this team.
The
right?
new ROX.
Yeah, I mean, the new ROX, but also just slightly unconventional, right? They break the standards, they break the convention of what has been working, how you're supposed to win, you know, your matches here in Kart Rider Drift at the KDL, and they're finding their own way to stay alive.
They told us their growth never stops, and so far they've definitely shown that here in the item mode against Aura. But now we are ready for our track number 7, Factory Brody's Blue.
Match point for Aura as the race begins. Meanwhile, ROX trying to keep themselves alive, try to get to that ace match to see if you can once again bank on your hero Jung, bringing home the victory.
You definitely want to see it. If you're a fan of KDL at this point, not even a ROX fan, because if you're this close to an ace match, you may as well see it, even if it's a little bit tougher for the players and the teams.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sorry for Aura, but man, what a story it would be if Jung is able to come into the KDL, right? Swaps over from the KRPL, starts to set these insane records as an individual in these ace matches. It would be one hell of a way to start a new career here in KDL.
And even if Jung doesn't win the ace match, that also has a lot to say about Aura now, because if you can beat Jung in the ace match, you're technically stronger than Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, I mean, you know, with the law of transposition there, I mean, that would put Aura ahead. We'll see if that comes to play. Just a bit of a banana. Looked like maybe he wasn't really spotting that ahead of time. Tried to dodge it at the last second. Now Brody's Gloom, a little unique here in the item mode in that it is one of the 2 lappers, a bit of a longer track for the item mode tracks.
Look at Dutsy. Look how far he is with that shield right now and a sneaky little banana in his pocket.
Yeah, well, Cease does have a magnet, and of course a little bit of a catch-up mechanic here coming into play for Kart Rider Drift as Dutsy just slows down. Doesn't want to get too far ahead and get blindsided by something like a magnet. Meanwhile, Cease just being anchored on too by somebody to catch back up. Dutsy now with double shield, he's got to be able to cycle through one of these. Yeah, he's going to get a missile for his troubles.
Missile is definitely going to be a huge thing here because Jung doesn't have a shield and no Angel on the side of ROX. This is looking like he's going to use it here.
Yeah, but one more Angel, another still in the bank for Knock as well. As we get towards the later part of the track here, Aura once again back in the lead. Hero's going to boost ahead. He has that shield, and then the magnet comes in from C's. But Hero actually going to be blocking C's just a bit. Meanwhile, Tech, can he block any other aggression? Not many items to play. Oh, man. C's crosses the finish line. ROX unable to catch back up at the last corner. And it's going to be Aura who wins both speed and item mode to stay alive and to move on to the lower bracket finals of KDL Preseason 1.
It was actually the obstacle of Brody's Gloom that had stopped Spell. And to be honest, even if that didn't happen, it might have been Aura's win still anyways, because here they showed such a prowess holding that 1-2 coming in. Look at that, almost a full 1.5 second difference between Spell and C's, and the bottom 3 players, they all retired even.
Yeah, I mean, if Spell hadn't gotten, trapped there by an obstacle, I mean, maybe, it would have come down to, are they aware of Spell catching back up? But Aura, like you said, they still had 2 members to cross the finish line first. Great showing from Aura. It's a shame that Jung's ace match story ends here for Preseason 1. But ROX, I mean, I think if anything, this is once again just proof that they do need to improve across the board in terms of overall teamwork and collaboration. Oh, you can just see Vega trying to encourage Dutzy a little bit there. I mean, obviously, everyone on ROX, they want to encourage each other, but it's also, it hurts, right? You were so close to get to another ace match here.
Yeah, and now we see once again coming in the Korean. What is the #1 MBTI? AURA.
Well, today it was Aura, just a great showing. I mean, they 4-0'd ROX in speed mode. I think once again proving that they are a monster over on speed mode.
Spell,
yeah,
no.
Spell gets hit by the barricade there, popping up. But even without that, like you said, if you wanted to dodge it, you would have had to basically follow behind the 2 racers ahead of you. That's a rough one. Well, all the Aura fans who wanted to come watch them again tomorrow, you know, they already reserved tickets here in the stadium. They already made sure their train back home was reserved for tomorrow. They get their wishes granted. Meanwhile, Jung, I mean, he's miffed, and it's not just him, right? I think overall the team played a lot better today. It wasn't just the Jung show, but it just wasn't enough against the incredible, impeccable teamwork of Aura.
You definitely feel for Jung. I feel like if Jung lost here today in the ace match, instead of losing in the item mode and the speed mode to Aura, he would have had some acceptance to that, right? Because ace match, he at least got to play it, and he maybe got outskilled in an opponent 1v1, but he didn't get that chance today.
No chance for Jung to try to prove himself as an individual racer once again. But that ends the story of ROX Esports for Preseason 1 of the KDL. Meanwhile, Aura continuing to improve, continuing to challenge the top dogs as they now take down one of the pro teams in ROX Esports. They await to see who they will face next between Liiv SANDBOX and the Guangdong FREECS.
Honestly, Will, I think if I was either Liiv SANDBOX or Guangdong FREECS, I'm nervous because this Aura, they definitely look pretty good. I mean, item modes, sure, we can say they showed weakness today against ROX. They weren't as impeccable. But at the same time, this is a new ROX. They're growing. We don't know how good they are at item mode. Maybe ROX is the best item mode team now for all we know.
Could be. I mean, obviously what the teams are cooking up in their meantime in their scrims, we can't be privy to all of that. But I also wonder, Aura, I'm curious to find out if Aura wants to face SANDBOX again or the FREECS, right? Because they did beat the FREECS here on Wednesday. Now, they did lose to SANDBOX prior to that. But, of course, I think Aura's just improved overall, so I think they would be happy to face off against either. Maybe even, you know, they would want the chance to challenge SANDBOX again to prove that they can take down all the pro teams one by one.
That would take a really high level of confidence and belief in your teammates, but honestly, for Aura, I wouldn't be too surprised if they had that in them so far in the KDL Preseason 1. They've definitely established their history now as one of the amateur teams that can absolutely stand up to the professional teams.
Yeah.
Not only that, beating one today in ROX.
Yeah, and they beat ROX. Again, they beat the Guangdong FREECS in the last team match of the round robin over back on Wednesday. Now, I mean, they await. So basically, who they'll play is the loser of the next match, which is Guangdong FREECS versus Liiv SANDBOX. The winner there already moves on to the grand finals. Meanwhile, the loser will have to play another race against Aura tomorrow. So a lot of fans, you know, the Aura fans happy that they'll get to come back to the stadium tomorrow. But Aura, they'll have to, you know, sit by and watch the next match as well, try to figure out who's their opponent. You know, what have they been practicing? Do they have any new builds, both in speed and item mode?
And that's definitely their kind of like reward now for winning. They can sit down and watch the upcoming matches and just really be studying with some like cheerful snacks and drinks because you want to celebrate your win on a good note, right?
Sure.
And then for ROX,
I mean, yeah,
completely
you're out.
different atmosphere.
Yeah, you're out of the tournament. I think it hurts, and you can see how much it meant to the players as well. Even though, you know, we've been saying, you know, it's just the preseason 1, right? The official season, you know, kickoff of KDL hasn't come yet. It's coming at the end of the year. But for the players, I mean, every race they get to run on stage counts so much, right, for them to prove themselves and their team as well. And I think for ROX, the reason it probably hurts the most is because they have been trying to improve, and they've shown that. But they are not quite at a point yet where anyone is counting them as a reliable team, and I think that's what they want to prove to themselves and their fans, maybe even their opponents. And now they've lost all their chances for Preseason 1. They will have to wait until Preseason 2 to get another chance.
Perhaps the most shocking part of today was that ROX actually lost 0-4 against Aura in speed mode.
Yeah.
You have to assume that, you know, with the way they were improving, especially with Dutzy trying to hold that first position for Jung to later catch up, that they would have a formidable performance in speed mode as well, but they just didn't.
But I think that's what Aura showed everyone, was the answer to that was they oftentimes just kept Jung tied up in the back. I mean, Jung was kind of this jack of all trade, or master of all trades, quite frankly, on the side of ROX. And, you know, we saw Aura say, well, you know what, we'll just never let you escape. You thought you were sweeping against us, but you're trapped in here with me, right, down in 6th, 7th, and 8th place. We rarely saw Jung really having that, you know, resurgence in the lap 2s or the later half of each track where we suddenly see him shoot back forward, try to contest for number 1. We didn't see those moments today, and it's because Aura was so good about their role division where Hero or C's kind of left up to really take that number 1 spot and run with it, and then C's or Nock would play second fiddle, support in the middle of the pack, and then one of them, usually Navi or Nock, would be the one responsible for saying, well, you just target Jung. Just make sure he never gets back into the top 4.
That's the kryptonite for ROX here in KDL Preseason 1. Just hold that first position, keep sweeping, and make the race chaotic for the members of ROX, and make sure at all costs that you do not give Jung that ace match.
Yeah, well, yes, that's very important. That's what we've learned absolutely in this matchup against between Aura rather and ROX Esports. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that of course was match 1. But you know, as we're kind of wrapping up what happened so far, we do have another match as well. So if you're kind of watching and waiting to find out if there's anything else, later on, we'll be going to a commercial break. That's when you can go to the bathroom and everything. But stick with us for now, and then, of course, we'll be coming back with match 2. But just to talk about Aura and ROX just a bit longer as we have a bit of time, I'm now curious. I mean, Aura, the number of 1-2 finishes they have, I think out of the 4 today, it was also 3 of those. So that's now 17 total here in Preseason 1. And if you're winning your tracks that handily, right, you're not having to rely on, you know, these crafty positionings like the 2-3-5-7. Not to say that that's any worse, but,
right.
I mean, 1-2 is just much more commanding. I mean, even FREECS and SANDBOX, you got to be a little worried, right?
Yeah, and I feel like SANDBOX and FREECS, they're definitely teams that have shown very consistent performance so far in the speed mode in the KDL preseason, and I think that's what makes it such an exciting matchup now against Aura, a team that likes to go for 1-2. You know that Guangdong FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX, no way they're just going to let you have that. They're also going to match that style. They're also going to go for the 1-2. They have their own great sweepers, so it's literally going to be rivalry match coming in.
Yeah, well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will get to find out who wins between Guangdong FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX.
The 특히나 오늘 루닝이 어려울 때마다 지금 상위를 계속 찍고 있는데 지금도 코스 얻으면서 원투를 유지하고 있어요.
코스가 지금은 계속해서 블로킹을 해주고 있는데 뒤쪽에서 드래프트 타이밍 한 번만 봤더라도 바로 1위까지 도달할 수 있는 거리거든요. 가드와 퍼센트가 붙였던 건 좋지 않았습니다.
그리고 띵글도 올라왔는데 일단 가게 한번 끼워들었어요.
자, 순위가 너무 안 좋기 때문에 가드는 좀 과감하게 가거든요. 이거는 단순히 한 명 역전하려는 게 아니고 전체적으로 꼬이게 만들려는 전략이에요.
무리해야 된다고 말씀드리려고 했을 때 호준이 완전히 큰 사고에 휘말렸던 것 같거든요.
퍼센트 아래쪽까지 내려왔고 몸싸움 통해서 한 번 더 스피드를 뒤로 밀어내고 있는 띵이었고요.
띵이 진짜 순간적으로 이거 바로 뒤쪽 가드라인 너무 좋았어요.
띵 진짜 좋네요.
상황에 따라서는 가드가 스탑까지도 불사하면서 순위 완전히 어그러뜨릴 수 있습니다.
그러니까 달리는 선수만은 아니거든요.
그렇죠.
가드가.
자, 하지만 그걸 루닝도 어느 정도 알고 있을 것
밀어야 돼요.
같은데.
오! 완전 됐죠?
완전히 공중에서 밀어서 바깥으로 떨궈 버렸네요.
이거 순위가
원투
이거 완전 가야 되듯이.
드랩 자 원투
막아요.
스피드
이렇게 해서 센세이션.
마지막에 근데 리브스의 집중력 좋았을 때 원투를 무조건 만들어야 되는 상황이다 보니까 최대한 라인 블로킹을 해줬었는데 그걸 또 침착하게 센세이션 선수들이 뚫고 올라가 버리죠.
자, 월드가 1위를 하고 있습니다만 사실 편안한 1위는 아닙니다. 뒤쪽에 소롱과 포수고 인수도 다 붙어 있고.
뭐 트랙을 생각해 보면 누가 해도 이상하지 않을 만큼 다 이게 워낙 인기 트랙이기 때문에.
그렇죠.
자, 아직까지
아슬아슬하게 풀을 떨어졌고.
떨어졌지만 들어왔는지가 중요하거든요.
뒤에 타이밍상 무조건 들어왔을 건데 지금 거리 차이 이 정도면 서로 다 할만하거든요. 풀은 여기까지.
와, 그냥 올라오네요.
터널에 잘 진입을 해서 그냥 들어오네요. 와.
야, 이거 불안해지는데 이거 6라운드 만에 끝나는 거예요?
방금 전에 일부러 안쪽으로 들어가는 게 아니라 그 다음 드래프트 타이밍을 기다린 것 같거든요. 이렇게 들어가려고.
또 밀렸어요.
이렇게까지 과감하게 한다고요?
근데 아직까지 버텼는데 월드가 또 파고들고요.
자, 서로 뒤에서 약간 드랩 타이밍 나왔을 때 과감하게 들어갑니다.
드래프트 타이밍 콜이 뒤쪽에서 또 보고 있어요. 이거 인코스 열리면 좀 들어가거나 아니면 드래프트 받았을 때
막힐 것 같은데요?
바깥쪽으로 빠질 수도
자,
있습니다.
초록이가 살짝 라인이 막히면서 본인이 원하는 만큼 가지 못했거든요.
자, 지금 2위 썸은 지금 현수와 월드가
와!
붙는데 콜이 올라오면서 월드가 바로 뒤쪽.
근데 월드가 살짝 뒤로 물러나서 예상치 못한 4위.
그러면서 현수가
뒤쪽에 있는
월드
선수가
현수를
뒤에서
넣어서
경기 끝나요. 경기 끝나는데요.
이런 콜이 그대로 경기 끝납니다.
끝납니다. 6경기 만에.
그냥 끝.
첫 부스터를 모으고 그 다음에 쓰면서 다시 한번 부스터 게이지를 모으는 과정이 풀이 정말 빠르네요. 그러다 보니까 순위 초반 스타트와 상관없이 앞순입니다.
최근 콜이 좀 다른 그림을 많이 그렸는데 이거는 오늘은 또 달려나가는 모습도 있고 여기는 뭐 누가 앞으로 가도 아무 상관이 없네요.
네, 그리고 성빈이 이렇게 드래프트 받을 때마다 앞쪽으로 치고 나오는데 앞쪽으로 치고 나온 이후에 인코스를 살짝 열어둔다면 그거 함정입니다. 잘못 들어갔다면 거기서 경기 터져요.
자, 그래서 플라이는 지금 뒤를 볼 거 없이 앞쪽만 바라보고 가야 되는데 이거 정말 무섭게 상호가 이빨을 늘어 내밀러 가거든요 지금.
왔어요.
살짝 또 누르고 갔어요.
아, 그리고 엑스플레이 한 번 더 버티면서 위쪽으로 올라가고 있습니다만 순위 자체가 지금 너무 안 좋아요.
네,
플레이.
그리고 2위에게 드랩을 걸 수 있는 타이밍이 안 나오고 거리가 안 나오기 때문에 쉽지 않을 것 같습니다.
너무 멀어지는데요. 이거
스피어!
스피어 턴.
이것이 스피턴이다라는 걸 보여주네요.
누구한테 퍼센트한테?
아마도요.
네.
또 하는데요.
아, 이거 그냥
그냥
노는데 스피어.
스피어 유창현의 윷놀이가 시작됐습니다.
결국 월드 콜 스피어까지 원토스를 그냥 잡아냅니다.
유창현 스피어가 원래 이렇게 화려한 퍼포먼스까지 보여주는 선수는 아니거든요. 그만큼 여유가 생겼고
네.
그만큼 실력에 자신이 붙었습니다. 자, 그렇다면은 근데 트랙 생각해보면 호준도 그러니까 예전부터 잘 달리던 트랙이기 때문에
예.
자신감 있게 주행을 할 거예요.
근데 루닝도 안 밀립니다.
위험 구간에서
이렇게
오히려 앞쪽 먼저 선점하고 계속해서 스탑하면서 호준의 심리적인 압박을 이용하려고 하죠.
쫓아오란 얘기죠. 얘기는 루닝은.
그리고 루닝 난 언제든지 이런 플레이 할 거야.
또
지금
제가-
너무 좋아요 루닝도.
자, 호준이 어깨를 내밀 때마다 루닝 게스트를 맞고 있는데 한번 뚫었죠.
네, 이게 오히려 잠자던 사자를 분노케 할 수도 있는 거거든요.
자, 좁은 지역으로 이제 슬슬 다가갑니다. 일단 호준도 넘어갔고.
왜냐면 호준도 이런 도전 좋아하거든요. 나한테 많이 공격해라, 내가 버틸게 이러면서 갑니다.
자, 위험한 지역을 일단 살짝 지나갔을 때 루닝은 뒤에서 일단 바라보고 있어요.
위협 구간에서 호준이 갑자기 스탑할 수도 있기 때문에 확실하게 내가 역전할 수 있는 구간이 나오기 전까지는 드래프트 발동되더라도 속도 조절하겠다라고 생각하는 타이밍이에요.
과감하게 아웃으로 빠지면서 최대한 감속 관리. 하지만 호준도 눈치챘어요.
아직까지 한 번 더 버팁니다. 마지막 세 번째는
자, 이제 위협 구간 들어갔을 때 루닝이 거리 감차를 어떻게 유지하느냐
보지.
중요합니다.
서로 그냥 눈치 봤어요 지금까지는.
네, 서로 살짝 긁었고.
자, 스탑할 수 있기 때문에
여기.
순간적으로
위에서
드랩 받아요.
여기서 타이밍 서로 막히고요.
룰이 버텼죠.
마지막 드랩을 호준이 한번 받을 것 같습니다.
오메비드 뒤에 아직까지.
자,
거기서.
거기면은 지금 겹쳤는데 루니 끝까지 라이브로
다음 드랩.
근데 붙잡혀 봐요.
리브 최루닝.
와, 호준을 상대로 단 한순간도 주눅들지 않았습니다.
호준의 공격을 피하지 않았고 오히려 본인이 주도권을 가져갔고요. 정말 무섭게 선장했네요.
드래프트 구간이 그 드래프트 타이밍이 거기서 호준이 소모하면 그 다음에 기회가 없다는 걸 정확하게 알고 있었어요. 트랙에 대한 이해도도 기가 막혔습니다.
뽕의 리브 샌드박스 현재 이 상황에서 좀 어렵긴 어려워요.
방금 전에 드래프트 이용해서 닐이 합류하는 장면 예술이었죠.
자, 뒤쪽에서도 공격적인 상황들 많이 일어나는데 앞쪽 이번엔 샌드박스가 주도권 좀 가져갑니다.
가장 좋았던 것은 쿨이 어차피 러너로 뛴다는 걸 아니까 현수를 일찌감치 앞쪽으로 빼줬다는 점이에요. 1대1을 만들어주고 있죠.
그런데 현수가 뒤쪽에 살짝 부딪히면서 빠졌고요.
자, 그러면서 성빈 스피어가 올라왔거든요. 이렇게 되면은 쿨이 조금만 더 시간 벌어주면 인수들이 이번에도 약간은 좀 힘겹게 끌려갈 수 있습니다.
리브 샌드박스가 지금 미들 순위가 탄탄한 편이 아니기 때문에
오!
1대1 싸움에서 이겨내야 돼요.
자, 버튼이 올라왔죠. 인수딜.
와, 이게 솔리드 프로인가요? 다 막아버렸는데요.
파리가 멀긴 합니다만 원투가 깨지는 순간에 전체 순위가 요동칠 수 있기 때문에 이거 끝까지 봐야 돼요.
스피어가 날카롭거든요. 아직까지 한번 바라보고 있습니다. 인수가 1위를 달려나오고 있습니다.
마지막
이렇게 차돌. 그러면 이거 누구? 광동.
야, 기가 막힌 한 방이 있었네요.
어떻게 이렇게까지 계산을 해서 만들어내나요?
피어니까 가능한 판단이었고 몸싸움이었고 스탑이었던 것 같습니다.
와, 이 벨트 구간에서 자체 실수들은 많이 하는데 이렇게 스탑을 해서 순위 터뜨리고 이기는 거 처음 봐요.
Welcome back, racers, to the KDL. We just had our first playoff match between Aura and ROX Esports. Aura takes down ROX Esports, knocks them out of Preseason 1. Aura will now await to find out their next opponent, who will be decided by this match between the KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX. First up on stage is KWANGDONG FREECS.
And this matchup has been talked about so many times throughout the preseason as being the Goliaths coming in to clash against each other, and it still is even today. Guangdong Freaks, they had a beautiful start to the season, and then they ended it on a loss. They're hoping they don't have another loss here to top that.
Yeah, I mean, KWANGDONG FREECS, I mean, let's be very honest, Aura has been looking better and better, but they also looked a little bit off tempo in their last round robin match over on Wednesday. Curious to see if they've shored that up. Of course, their opponents, Liiv SANDBOX. Now, last time they faced off against each other, Liiv SANDBOX not able to run their full 5. And now they return in full force to get their revenge.
Liiv SANDBOX, this is the full roster now. They are back in their full strength. We see Neil leading the pack, and I know he loves his KDL player card. He shows that to the camera sometimes.
Yeah, he really holds on to that. Of course, the rest of the lineup looking just as strong as well. Insu, Hyunsu, Seungha, and Jimin. And I mean, of course, for those of you who have been following the team, you know, Insu and Seungha, they will actually, this will be their last preseason here, or their season rather, in KDL and in Cartwriter, as they do have to enter military service, mandatory military service out here in Korea. And so, of course, while there is still solo mode, I mean, they're trying to make sure their last dance continues here as they go up against the Guangdong Freaks.
Yeah, if they lose here against Guangdong Freaks, they're not going to lose their tournament life because they have a chance to go against Aura next. But obviously, you want to have a clean win here and guarantee your spot in the finals. Guangdong Freaks, this really just summarizes it well. All team members are indeed aces.
Yeah, I mean, they've been seeing that and they've been proving it so far. They've had 2 different ace matches, 2 different races have gone out to those ace matches, and they've still won both of them as well. So, curious. Oh, and they just say, all right, Insu and Seungha, take care of yourselves. Come back safely. About, you know, approximately 2 years of service required. So, saying farewell already. Jeez, like you said, Peter, even if they lose today, they're not out yet. Guangdong Freaks a little early for that.
Yeah, 2 years is a very long time. Definitely gotta maintain your health because a lot of things can happen in that time. So hopefully, Insu and Seungha, their last dance here today, they'll be able to perform at their best.
Yeah, well, of course, they try to continue their last dance here over for Insu and Seungha. And now we do have Liiv SANDBOX's full roster. The captain's order to go straight to the finals was given. Well, I mean, that's what they would want, right? They don't want to have to go through another race tomorrow. Just win today, get to the grand finals, take a little break, make sure the opponents have to go through yet another race against Aura.
And you look at this combo coming in from Hyunsu and Seungha in the speed average rank. You can tell that these 2 players are the main 1-2 combos for Liiv SANDBOX, and I'm excited to see what they bring to the table today.
Yeah, I mean, they're not a team to be laughed at by any means, of course, but it's harder to write this one line than analyzing our opponents.
That's true.
I mean, I'm curious, though. Is it because you're just bad at trash talk, or is it really because you don't think there's anything to analyze for Guangdong Freaks? You could take it both ways, but Liiv SANDBOX just having a little bit of fun here with the taunt today.
Yeah, it definitely can be taken in both meanings, whichever the case. A clever spin on words from Liiv SANDBOX there. And honestly, when it comes to the speed mode where we start with, I don't know where the edge is. Both teams are so evenly matched.
Yeah, of course, we'll have to wait to see the bans and picks as well. I mean, both of them having great records across multiple tracks. Guangdong Freaks just having the best record so far in team matches. Obviously, theirs is going to look a lot better, especially in speed mode. And Guangdong Freaks, they did have, of course, the #1 seed, so they get to choose speed priority. Insu just telling everyone to cheer up that he's still here at a race today. So we get to still watch and enjoy a little bit of Insu. But Guangdong Freaks, they're going to take over Glacier Extreme Stadium as their first pick.
And we see Liiv SANDBOX coming in right back with the 4 Zigzag Timberland. We've seen Neil have fantastic performances here. When he gets a lead, he doesn't give it up. But Guangdong Freaks also has a 100% win rate.
Yeah, I mean, both of these teams are going to have crazy high win rates across pretty much every track. So can't count into that one too much. But yeah, a little curious about the Glacier Extreme Stadium start. Maybe just wanted to start off on something a bit simpler here in round 1. Of course, it is a best of 7. Now, the first bans have already come through. Construction Chaos being banned out by SANDBOX. Meanwhile, Winding Slopes being banned out by Guangdong Freaks.
So Liiv SANDBOX actually never played a match before in Desert Construction Chaos. So that is definitely why they must have banned it. While for Guangdong Freaks, taking out Mine Winding Slopes, you have to wonder because they did have a win in Winding Slopes, while Liiv SANDBOX, they played only 1 match there and they lost. So you would assume they have an advantage, at least statistically, but not the case.
Yeah, I mean, now that was the track that they had a lot of trouble in against Aura on Wednesday, so I wonder if they're just saying, listen, something's not right with this track with us right now, let's just ban it out. Meanwhile, Terracotta Twister has been a go-to pick here for the Guangdong Freaks, so no surprise that they pick it up right away in round 3. Meanwhile, Desert Pharaoh's Pass. Now, that's another one that SANDBOX hasn't played. SANDBOX actually has been cycling through the same tracks for the entirety of Preseason 1. They haven't played 5 out of the 12 tracks so far, Pharaoh's Pass and Construction Chaos being 2 of those.
Yeah, and that's reflected in the ban coming in from SANDBOX for the second track. It's Rickety Rails, another track they never played, while Guangdong Freaks, they take out New York Rally. And once again, this is a track that they've had success in, but they're maybe identifying that Liiv SANDBOX is potentially really good at there as well.
Okay, Boom Hill Tunnel now comes out. Once again, another track that SANDBOX just hasn't played. We're getting so many first looks at Liiv Sandbox's team speed mode today. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, Boom Hill Tunnel, definitely a stranger pick here, but it's definitely exciting to open that box. Now we see World Tour Boostwood being finalized by the Guangdong Freaks. So if we go all the way down to that round 7, which I think definitely could happen here in a matchup like this, it's going to be interesting to see which team is going to break that 100% win rate.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we look at the later part, Bridge Run, Bayside Bridge Run, Boom Hill Tunnel, things like that. I mean, that's 2 tracks in a row that we haven't seen here from Liiv Sandbox, so curious to see what they've cooked up. But again, in terms of just pure stats, both these teams have incredible stat lines across multiple tracks, so it's really just going to come down to, do you have any new builds today? How do you adjust to each other? And of course, how do you play your positions? Now, next up will be the picks and bans here for item mode.
Item mode is where things get completely different. We do have pick priority here for Liiv Sandbox, and I feel like they had a lot of success in the World Tour tracks as well as Factory Cogwheel Crush. I wonder if one of them, yep, World Tour London Night is going to be the one.
Yeah, this has been one of their favorite maps to pick up here at item mode, so I think Guangdong Freaks probably not surprised about that one at all, as we see, of course, these teams both with pro team infrastructure and support, their coaches on stage as well, helping going through the track ban and pick list.
Man, Cogwheel Crush is really interesting coming in from Guangdong Freaks because they play that one the most, but they have a 50% win rate, while Liiv Sandbox, they played 4 times and have a 75%. And we see also a ban coming in from Guangdong.
Yeah, so they couldn't ban out, of course, London Night because Sandbox had priority. They pick it up first, but they will still ban out Gangnam Streets, which is another one that Sandbox has been very good at. Of course, just now on camera right there, Seungha, also one of the racers who will be going to the military, their mandatory military service here after this preseason.
Definitely the last dance, but the players are looking very positive. They know they want to end here on a positive note. Magma Cavern being picked up by Sandbox now. And this is a track that both teams have an equal record on, so it's going to be a sight to see the rivalry match happen.
Yeah, now that's another track that Sandbox loves to pick up as well, so no surprise. Now Pharaoh's Pass coming out here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another one where there's the 2 big jumps there towards the end, right? One to get back onto the roof, and then you have to drop back down towards the finish line. Curious to see. Obviously, you can see some crazy shenanigans there with speed decreases or magnets trying to drop people into the pit.
Pharaoh's Pass is definitely a tricky track to work around, but we do see now the ban coming in from Guangdong Freaks. Factory Brody's Gloom is going to get taken out, and they have a pretty bad record in that track, whereas Liiv Sandbox, they're looking really great there. So I love that ban, and you have to wonder if you're Liiv Sandbox, Guangdong Freaks, you have to potentially wonder that you're the better team than them in item mode. So what is their weakness?
All right, Istanbul Sunset Plaza being banned out. I was curious if we're going to see a ban on Mushroom Caves from either team, just because that has been a priority ban against both of these teams. Opponents obviously wanting to avoid that track, both of them having a pretty healthy record there. But I guess, you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and make a prediction. That's probably just staying until round 7, right? Maybe Liiv Sandbox maybe not even picking that up as the last track, just letting it fall through. Okay, Guangdong Freaks, they say, well, our last pick will go with what we're confident in.
You definitely call that one out. And now the final pick from Sandbox is going to be Glacier Polar Halfpipe. We do see a very poor win rate on the side of Guangdong Freaks there as opposed to Liiv Sandbox. So I like that strategic pickup.
Okay, interesting lineups in the tracks on both speed and item mode. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the upper bracket final here between Guangdong Freaks versus Liiv Sandbox. We will be kicking things off in a best of 7 for both speed and then item mode. Of course, if the teams take one each, we will be going to that glorious ace match.
Glorious ace match. We didn't get that from ROX today, so hopefully we're able to see that in the matchup between the 2 titans here as we take a look at the speed track list again. We are starting off on Glacier Extreme Stadium, picked up by Guangdong Freaks.
Yeah, and then we'll be going over to Zigzag Timberland. Liiv Sandbox, no stranger to that. Then Terracotta Twister. Freaks love to play on that track. And then we start to get into some new territory here from Liiv Sandbox, entering Pharaoh's Pass, Bayside Bridge Run, Boom Hill Tunnel, and last but not least, if we get there, it will be World Tour Boostwood.
Yep, if we get there. Hopefully we get there.
I mean, I think there's a good chance. You know, I think the picks and bans quite curious here. Liiv SANDBOX happily picking up a lot of these tracks that they just have not shown yet in Preseason 1. So KWANGDONG FREECS not sure what to expect exactly. Meanwhile, Winding Slopes kind of being that first man from FREECS. A little surprising, but they had a rough time on it. And the last time these two played against each other, that was a track where Spear had the incredible stop on the last jump to bump away 2 members of Liiv SANDBOX into the wall. So maybe they're just accepting, all right, that was a little bit of luck on our sides. We don't want to take that risk again.
Yeah, that was such a high-level play that back then when I watched it live, I actually didn't really understand what happened.
Yeah,
I thought it was
just happens kind of all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, I thought it was the track itself, but it was actually a clutch block. And we have so many fans here today for both Liiv SANDBOX and KWANGDONG FREECS, cheering them on as we get ready to enter Speed Track #1, Glacier Extreme Stadium.
And we're off. KWANGDONG FREECS versus Liiv SANDBOX to find out which team will get to the grand finals of the first ever preseason here at the KDL.
So far, we have Hyunsu leading out with Seungha. This is looking really good because that is the combo from Liiv SANDBOX that usually has a really high average ranking. World and Cool making sure to contest that, however.
Yeah, now my big question is, Insu, of course, playing team match so well. I mean, fans of Insu love watching him actually in the team mode specifically, and whenever he's playing in these 8-man solo races as well, because he loves to maneuver around the middle of the pack very aggressively. Meanwhile, KWANGDONG FREECS, all 4 players happy to get into these physical fights.
You know, you have to give a lot of credits here to World, making sure to prevent Hyunsu from getting that 1-2 once again as he's going for the cut. He drops off the map, and now it's only Cool left for KWANGDONG FREECS.
Oh no, KWANGDONG FREECS, we're starting to see a little bit of those mistakes we saw against Aura as well. This time around, Cool and Spear trying to get some extra cuts. Spear, Cool actually just kind of running into that as well. Now they're at the wall. I mean, KWANGDONG FREECS, what's been going on? They just do not look as clean as they used to.
Insu, he managed to get some priority off that and blocked out the members of KWANGDONG FREECS even more, pushing them into the walls. Once again, you can see him blocking out Spear, only Sungbin managing to find a way out.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, they currently have 1, 2, and 3, but even without that, World is pretty much guaranteed in 8th place. And after that, Sungbin and Cool still in 6 and 7 as well. Liiv SANDBOX in such a healthy position. Spear doing what he can, but he would have to minimum break into 1st place, and then his teammates would have to catch up, but they're so far behind.
Absolutely devastating here for KWANGDONG FREECS. Only chance right now, Spear, to try to break that 1-2 in Seungha and Hyunsu, but they are so far away.
Yeah, I don't think he can even catch up to Hyunsu right now. And Seungha and Hyunsu, they're going to get in side by side for that 1-2 finish. And it's going to be a quick and easy victory on track 1 here for Liiv SANDBOX.
Man, World falling off the track there as he took the tightest turns he tried, but he didn't have enough momentum to actually make it across. And at that point, it felt like the cohesion in KWANGDONG FREECS really crumbled as everyone tried to now take over for World, dropping out of that top 4, and Insu was able to find a lot of clutch blocks in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious what's been going on with the FREECS. We started to see this a little bit with Aura as well, where they started to kind of play on their own, right? Each of them having their own idea of what their win condition is, going for, you know, whether it's some of these aggressive sweeps, maybe even just trying to go for these straight boosts or trying to bump into the wall to get an aggressive stop against their opponents. These very high-risk, high-reward plays, but if it's not done as a team, it's not going to come out in benefit for your side.
And probably the most concerning part, we'll get to that in a second, but as we take a look at the replay here, this is already past the point where World dropped, and we can just see how much chaos it created. Even Cool, who never loses his cool, he crashes into the wall.
Yeah, I mean, and that one I can't imagine was going to be an intentional stop, because it's not like he was trying to make way for his teammates. He was already in a position where he needed to catch up to the 2 members of Liiv SANDBOX, and that's when they were able to be up in the first 2 positions. A little bit of play on words, but still cheering on for SANDBOX. Don't let them fool you. They are still a fan of SANDBOX on that side. Well, ladies and gentlemen, currently it's going to be the lead for SANDBOX as we enter track number 2. It's Forest Zigzag Timberland.
We begin our speed round number 2 between Guangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX. Neil actually holding the best record here. No surprise because I keep mentioning Neil as one of the star players of Zigzag Timberlake.
Yeah, and the way they do that is, I mean, similar to how Aura likes to maneuver, right? They just send Neil up front there, you know, SANDBOX right now already positioned for that, and then the rest of his teammates make sure to block for him. He's able to just go with his own build to stay up front, and looks like they're well on their way to do so. Once again, Hyunsu and Neil, Seungha right behind him, Insu just in charge of making sure that Guangdong Freaks stays in 7th and 8th.
Complete domination right now from Liiv SANDBOX. Has a firm control over that 1-2. Insu just staying back to collide with you.
Yeah, nice pass from World though, and Seungha, as he was trying to block against World, he misses that opportunity, and now he's made way for a couple other members as well. So now Insu trying to catch back up. Of course, you're gonna have a good chance to catch back up here in the zigzag section at the end of the track.
Right now we have Insu trying to do some catch up, but Guangdong Freaks, they have a pretty consistent duo right now in Spear and World. They are sticking together, trying to get the draft off each other, but Neil and Hyunsu are so far away still.
Yeah, this is the problem, is that Spear has to make sure he's sweeping against Insu as well, but that means World has to get up there on his own, and meanwhile Spear misses the opportunity, just a bit of an off angle, and Insu's able to keep his momentum, but this time Insu also trying to sweep against him. But this is still an advantage for Liiv SANDBOX because they're holding on to that 1-2 position. Throughout that entire time, World just hasn't had a chance to catch up.
Absolutely no shot, especially now with Seungha up here to try to sweep him out of the way. World being pressured right now to take some good lines, but how can you take the good lines when Seungha keeps distracting you?
Yeah, I mean, again, World, he's having to play both offense and defense, and while he can hold on to number 3, he can't get into 1 and 2. Now Seungha making sure he passes by Spear, so he's constantly pressuring World. Like you said, Peter, this puts all the pressure in World to try to make sure he goes for high-risk, high-reward plays, but if you can't break 1-2, you're going to lose yet another track on the side of Guangdong Freaks.
World trying to do just that. He's been trying this whole entire 2 laps. He's not able to find the angle here. Seungha with the beautiful block out. Insu!
What a great play. Double team from Insu and Seungha, where they basically juggle World in between them. Eventually sends him flying into the wall, and it's Neil and Hyunsu for another 1-2 finish here for Liiv SANDBOX.
1-2, 3-3 finish for Liiv SANDBOX.
Perfect finish here for SANDBOX.
When have you seen that, especially coming up against a team like Guangdong Freaks? Now, Liiv SANDBOX, they're leading out 2-0 here in speed, looking super dominant.
Uh-oh, Guangdong Freaks. I mean, it's a little early to tell, but so far in terms of just the momentum, SANDBOX running away with it. I mean, a 1-2-3-4, even a tie here in 3rd place to really cement the fact that they have a perfect finish here. I mean, what a way to continue your last dance if you're Insu and Seungha, right? Really proving that they are the gems of the team match here for Liiv SANDBOX.
Liiv SANDBOX, their form is crazy, and their class is eternal, our fans are saying. And I think, for sure, all the fans today for Liiv SANDBOX are super happy with what they're seeing from their favorite teams. As we take a look at the replay, there were a lot of collisions in the back here, while Neil and Hyunsu at this point, they were just keeping 1-2.
Yeah, but I mean, look at that setup there. Seungha making way for Insu as he goes for the wider drift. He's going to have that momentum to sweep against World, and that just really puts the nail in the coffin. Guangdong Freaks fans are going to have to put some more power behind their cheers, because right now, everything pointing the way of Liiv SANDBOX.
Absolutely. Guangdong Freaks, they want to try to find a comeback angle here. It is their track of choice. Number 3, World Tour Terracotta Twister.
And the race begins. This time, the record being held by Seungha on the side of Liiv SANDBOX, so there are no strangers here. But as a team, this has been a big favorite for Guangdong Freaks, as Hyunsu just not wasting any time, making sure that he just cuts right on the inside to get back into 1st place.
Hyunsu and Seungha, such a runner ace for the team of Liiv SANDBOX. They are able to capitalize on their positions in the top 4 almost every single track, it feels like. And now, the main question is, World, are you going to make a big slip up here? Because this is where it gets really tricky in Terracotta Twister.
Yeah, I mean, you're only in lap 1. I don't think you have to get too greedy here in the 1st lap. You just have to make sure you're watching out for the aggression potentially coming up from Liiv SANDBOX, and that's exactly what happens from Guangdong Freaks. They're always positioning just for recovery in that 1st lap. Of course, that might change in lap 2.
Sungbin with the beautiful recovery there. It felt like he almost was going to fall off the track because he was forced into such a tight line, but here he is taking so many clutch blocks against Liiv SANDBOX. This is looking much better for Guangdong FREECS.
Yeah, now this is something we've seen before on Terracotta Twisted for Liiv SANDBOX as well, where Neil, if he's not able to get into the lead, he does struggle to catch back up as he's now been pretty much targeted by Cool. He's slowly trying to climb back in by gaining the team boost for his team, but right now all eyes on Spear versus Hyunsu for that #1 spot.
Yeah, Spear took a little collision there, but not really anything effective. It's not killed his momentum. He's still up there contesting Hyunsu. Now, Liiv SANDBOX all of a sudden moving up into positions, coming in like a pack of hyenas, trying to take away the momentum from Guangdong FREECS.
Yeah, and Spear, he can't try to go for an aggressive stop, but he is going to be able to go through and get that first spot. Meanwhile, now it's a battle between the top 4 as Cool trying to catch up to see if he can provide support, maybe overtake Insu and really cement this. Liiv SANDBOX currently
Insu.
2, 3, 5, 7. Can they hold on to that? Insu trying to hold on to 5. Cool, can he overtake him? No!
My goodness, that was such a crazy race back and forth till the end, but it is Liiv SANDBOX who manages to find the advantage through their 2-3-5-7, 20-19. Man, that could have gone either way.
Yeah, and I think, I gotta imagine right there at the end of, that tomb section, the indoor section, now I'm starting to think it had to have been an intentional, safer route, just drifting over on the outside. Make sure you don't fall off because you're confident that you're holding on to the middle of the pack. Liiv SANDBOX looking for either a 2-3-4, 2-3-5-7 intentionally, not wanting to take a risk and maybe lose all of your leading positions. Well, either way, it pays off, and they are now 3-0 in speed mode.
And how could you expect that, right? Coming into the postseason, Guangdong FREECS, they were undefeated for the longest time, and now we see a cheerful and a salute come back with a healthy body. Yeah, to Insu and Seungha, and
he was also he had a little side note saying, Insu, you're my role model. I hope you get the double victory this preseason. Of course, he meaning both in team mode and solo mode. I mean, the team matches and solo matches, if he can do that, that would be incredible. Insu, despite having such a big following, not able to set such a record like that, but he's well on his way this time as they're leading 3-0 in speed mode against Guangdong FREECS as we enter track #4. It's Desert Pharaohs Pass.
Off we go into round #4 of speed mode. We have Hero from Aura holding the track record, so let's see if a member from one of these two teams can break it.
Yeah, Pharaohs Pass, not particularly a difficult track, but of course, right there in that section, the way you want to cut can be a little difficult. You're going to be very conscious of your own builds, and as we get towards the later jumps, right, I mean, your timing on your boost and your angle for this couple drifts right near the end is going to matter quite a bit as Guangdong FREECS currently holding on to the 1, 2!
Oh no, that collision!
Spear bumping into the wall again. The FREECS, all their racers have had some nasty collisions the past couple races.
It is definitely not looking good for Guangdong FREECS as they have Spear and Sungbin now in that 6-7 position. This is match point for Liiv SANDBOX. So Guangdong FREECS, they got to keep World up there in first position. Cool. This is the guy that is able to consistently be top 4. He needs to find that now.
Yeah, meanwhile, Liiv SANDBOX is playing it a lot safer here on these jumps, making sure that as long as we don't make mistakes, we can hold on to either 1-3-4 or 2-3-4, secure that victory. So they're very well aware of their win condition now, all up to Spear. Outside of that, Cool and Sungbin, they are so far behind, you cannot rely on them right now. Spear has to try to break the formation here, or it's up to World to go for a hard stop, try to knock out both Insu and Neil.
There's a lot of strategies on the table for Guangdong FREECS, but the hard part is choosing the right one as we come here right now. Collisions did happen for Insu there. He is going to fall behind.
1-2! Spear! Spear breaks through and he's able to secure it. World hold on to #1. What an incredible comeback here for Guangdong FREECS. A great drift on the inside, knocking away the members over on Liiv SANDBOX, and Guangdong FREECS recovering their match life right now as they want to also try to get to that grand finals first ahead of Liiv SANDBOX.
And they managed to find that win on Liiv SANDBOX's choice of track, so I'm sure that is going to kick up the morale for this team, and World setting a new track record.
Yeah, even with all that contention, right? All that pressure of people trying to catch up to him, him actually trying to overtake here right at the very end. A great race from both World and Spear. And a great setup here, Guangdong Freaks. They will not go down in a clean sweep. They are trying to bring this back in a reverse sweep in speed mode.
Yeah, and the cameraman knew World was a MVP of that match because it was absolutely crucial that World kept maintaining that top 2 position for Guangdong Freaks, which gave them the window to later on come in for a 1-2.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? We'll probably actually have to jump into the next track, and I'll get to it there. But once again, it's about those builds, right? Guangdong Freaks, they mostly run 6-2-6-0, but Spear actually running that 5-2-5-2. And that's why we see him in so many of these clutch positions. He has just a bit more boost time compared to his teammates.
Wow.
Oh, he actually just weaves in between the members of Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, he took the tightest inner curve there, and that was able to completely block out the line from Liiv SANDBOX. So a player tried to adjust to that, take the outer, and he crashed into the wall.
Yeah, just making sure he's kind of playing mind games against both of his opponents ahead of him. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can they make a reverse sweep? We're going to find out as we go to the next track. Yet another one that we have not seen here from Liiv SANDBOX in the team speed mode. It's Village Bayside Bridge Run. And the race continues between Guangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX. Again, one of the wider tracks here in speed mode where you're not going to be able to get too aggressive with your sweeps, but if it's between the Freaks and SANDBOX, anything can happen.
This is still match point for Liiv SANDBOX. Guangdong Freaks, they're trying to make the reverse sweep happen. They've taken that first step, and now they're here. Spear and World with the 1-2 looking phenomenal.
Yeah, keeping my eye also on Insu, see if he ever just tries to come up and create some chaos here. A nice block from Sungbit, making sure it doesn't affect Cool either. That gives Cool an opportunity to cash back up. Everyone trying to cut, but we saw it right there. Sungbit trying to go for a quick swift cut, but he's going to miss the sweep against Insu, and Insu able to secure 7th place.
You look at World and Spear, they're looking so good right now so far in the first lap. We see Hyunsu finally being able to break that 1-2, but their recovery from Guangdong Freaks, it's so good.
Yeah, Neil right behind as well, so probably not going to grade too much here towards the end. Yep, Hyunsu and Neil. Neil actually just taking a bit of a separate build here to catch up, make sure he's here to support Hyunsu. Spear with a nice block, but that actually almost makes way for Neil. So he meanwhile takes another build here to block off both members. Spear is playing a 1v2, but he loses to a speed on the wall.
Yeah, right now, Hyunsu and Neil did manage to find a way to pass Spear. Spear now coming in with a tighter line than Neil, being able to take that positional advantage. However, you look at Neil and Insu, they are completely blocking out Cool and Sungbit right now.
Yeah, and the real point here is Sungbin also making sure he locks out Sungha in 8th place. That gives him a couple more options to play with, even if World isn't able to hold on to that #1 spot. But all 4 players bunched up in the top 4. Guangdong Freaks understanding that they can get 2-3-4 or 2-3-5-7. They do not have to get too aggressive, but if they can keep 1-2, it would absolutely secure that victory.
The build from Zhong!
Yeah, 4 members trying to overtake that way, but it's not going to have an opening.
Wow.
World, Cool, and Spear with a 1-2-3 finish.
You can see the new meta really being set by Zhong there. We haven't seen this happen before in Bayside Bridge Run where so many players are taking that outer upper side pavement, but it was Guangdong Freaks who was able to find the cleanest lines there. 1-2-3 finish. What a domination.
Well, especially in team mode as well, the risk of letting an opponent get on that sidewalk is that then they can not only try to really go for a tight inside turn, but they could also just go for a straight boost at the corner, try to knock out one of your leading racers, right? And so I think that, we saw both teams, one team trying to aggress on that side, meanwhile Freaks entering the sidewalk to make sure they can block for their teammates. So mind games on top of mind games, but at the end it's just going to be a safe finish here from the Guangdong Freaks.
And what can we say? Guangdong Freaks right now, they brought up the score to a 2-3 against Liiv SANDBOX. They are 2 steps of the way to making a reverse sweep happen. They just need 2 more to make it a final.
Well, Guangdong Freaks, can they make the reverse sweep happen? They want that speed mode win before they have to face off against Liiv SANDBOX's crafty item mode. We'll find out as we go to yet another track. That's the first time for SANDBOX's Village Boom Hill Tunnel.
Here we go in speed round number 6. Guangdong Freaks World is actually holding the best record here. Let's see if he's able to use some of that skills to good use.
Yeah, now of course, right near the end of this track, as you get back into the town area, there are some amazing 90-degree zigzags. Oh, just a little bit of a bump here and there, but I'm curious, do we see any spin turns? Do we see any hard stops there?
We see this time to time from Insu where he takes a completely different build from the rest of the players. This time, he couldn't find anything crazy, but he's trying to take out Spear, but Spear with the counter punch.
Yeah, Spear with some good defense there. But he's right now in a 3v1. Even he knows that he can't try to get too aggressive. Meanwhile, yeah, he's trying to recover. He actually gets another collision against the wall as well. So Insu just now trying to keep Spear tied down. Meanwhile, Neil trying to hold on to that #1 spot.
The collisions were so good here on this turn. Completely turning the tides of the standings. Now it's Liiv SANDBOX with the 2-3.
Yeah, Neil with a nice jump onto the railing as well. We've seen that build before. Do we see anything craftier? Neil just trying to decrease a little bit to make sure he plays it safe. Meanwhile, he's going to try to get out of the...
Neil.
Oh, Sungbin just blocks him off from landing safely on the track. And Neil's going to get knocked all the way back down to 7th place.
Now it's a 1-2 holding, but the Hyunsu with the great line is able to break that. Unfortunately, it's not enough. Gwangdong FREECS with the overall advantage coming in 1-3-4. That's going to seal the deal.
Oh, Neil slows down on the 90-degree zigzag there to try to make sure he doesn't get knocked out by any crazy straight boost. And because of that, Sungbin actually able to slowly inch him out on that shortcut jump. Forces Neil to land on the edge of the sidewalk, get a nice little bump, slow him all the way down to 7th place.
And what a comeback right now for Gwangdong FREECS. They're tying it 3-3. Earlier they were down 0-3. One more and it's their win to take for the speed mode.
I mean, listen, I expect no less between these two teams, especially in speed mode. Both of them having some crazy speed demons on in a variety of tracks. A little fist bump happening between Neil and Insu. Meanwhile, Gwangdong FREECS, I mean, I think Liiv SANDBOX, they're much more lighthearted. Obviously, they feel a bit more confident on the side of item mode as well, but Gwangdong FREECS, they desperately want this win. As we go down to the wire, it's going to be track number 7 between Gwangdong FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX as we go to World Tour Boost. And the race begins, tied 3-3 in speed mode. Gwangdong FREECS wanting to get that guaranteed 1-set win here as they go up against Liiv SANDBOX in the upper bracket finals.
I feel like Cool hasn't had much of a spotlight today here in the team speed mode, but he holds the best record here in Boostwood, and we can see that being reflected right now. He is the highest ranking member out of Gwangdong FREECS.
Yeah, see if he can just break through the upper echelons here. Hyunsu and Insu, the Su duo, we haven't seen them in the lead together in a long time. Insu oftentimes being relied on to control the middle of the pack here in team matches, but right now he's given the opportunity to really make a name for himself here on Boostwood.
Now we see Sungbin, he does get slowed down a bit. It's now Cool. He gets blocked out a little bit there by Hyunsu. They're looking to try to stop this Su duo dominance.
Yeah, now this is the thing about a track like Boostwood. It's wide enough that even with a little bit of that stopping and blocking coming in from the lead, Cool able to just stay, with the pack, even overtaking Hyunsu just for a brief moment there. You're not going to get bumped into a wall entirely. There's a lot more room for recovery.
Now we see it once again. Liiv SANDBOX looking unfazed so far. We are in the second lap. Neil trying to be that sweeper, trying to take out Sungbin.
Yeah, but Liiv SANDBOX just seems to have a slight better grasp on their overall team boost management right now, and I'm curious to see if Gwangdong FREECS, can they overcome that? Because with their 6-2-6-0 builds, they actually need to control their boost a lot more carefully to be able to keep up with the likes of Liiv SANDBOX.
Spear trying to break through that defense of Hyunsu like a spear, but he's unable to as Hyunsu finds a way to recover constantly.
Yeah, and World constantly being contended against Sungha as well, but Spear somehow gets into first place. Can he hold on to this? We still need Cool to be able to catch back up, though, right at the end. No, it's not going to be enough. Insu actually crosses the finish line first. It's a 1-3-4 finish here for Liiv SANDBOX as they take the 4-3 victory in speed mode.
The Su duo was too consistent here in Boostwood. We talked about Cool having the best personal track record, but it didn't really pay off for Gwangdong FREECS this time. Liiv SANDBOX, after a really tough last 3 matches, they're able to come back.
Yeah, and you can see the relief on Neil, right? Of course, Neil, he's done his part now. He can sit out during the item mode and watch his teammates. He's helped bring victory in speed mode here. Happy to bring that home for his teammates. But that's a 4-3 victory. I mean, KWANGDONG FREECS, an excellent attempt to try to bring this back to a reverse sweep, but now they have to face the item mode monsters in Liiv SANDBOX.
It's definitely going to be a point of concern when Liiv SANDBOX can simply swap out Neil. And knowing how great of a player Neil is, that just puts emphasis on how great their item ace is. And you can see World, he is definitely looking a bit pressured.
Yeah, I mean, KWANGDONG FREECS, they just haven't looked as dominant as they did in the beginning of the season. Now, just a bit earlier, we saw fans saying, Insu, let's go to the finals, but I don't want you to go to military service. A little bit of a sad send-off here. Of course, if you missed it, Insu and Seungha, this will be their last season, and then they will both have to enter their mandatory military service.
And now we do see Jimin being swapped in. We've seen Jimin quite a lot on the roster of Liiv SANDBOX this season, not only in item mode, also in solo mode, or solo match rather, where he was able to make it across and move on to the group of 16. So definitely a strong player here as we take a look at the item track list.
Yeah, we went through the picks and bans earlier, but Liiv SANDBOX continuing with their trusty, reliable World Tour London Knight. And then they went ahead and picked Magma Cavern and Mother Lode over on round 3 and 5. Meanwhile, the FREECS starting things off on Cogwheel Crush and then bringing things to Pharaoh's Pass.
You have to wonder, KWANGDONG FREECS, do they have it in them? Their only shot now is to take this to an ace match. You know, if they lose, they're not out of tournament contention, but they want that clean win.
Yeah, now so far in the regular season, I mean, Liiv SANDBOX 6-1 in item mode. Of course, that one loss being up against ROX in a crazy anomaly of a match. But meanwhile, KWANGDONG FREECS, I mean, they're kind of half and half, right? 4-3 record so far in item mode. That has never been their strong suit. And now that they've lost the speed mode, they need to win this item mode to try to take it to another ace match.
SANDBOX is able to find the 8-3 and able to go home instantly.
Well, we'll see if that can happen as we enter item mode. KWANGDONG FREECS put up a fight on speed mode. Will they bring things back as we go to World Tour London Night? Item mode begins between KWANGDONG FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX. SANDBOX currently with the speed mode win. If they're able to get 4 tracks here in item mode, they will win 2-0 and enter the grand finals first.
We saw Spear and Jimin slowing down, gathering the items for the team, and now we see Cool holding on to that lightning, and we've seen Aura use that to some great success today. I'm sure he's waiting for the opportunity when Seungha actually uses the Angel. No, he's going to use it now.
All right, just cycling through. Of course, London Knight still a 3-lapper. Earlier, we saw it as well in the previous match. But Hyunsu not having any fun in the last 5 seconds, but he'll eventually be able to catch back up.
I didn't know there was a CC chain in Kart Rider Drift.
Well, sometimes it can happen, and trust me, it gets very infuriating if you're on the receiving end. But we'll see. Of course, I mean, in item mode, there is kind of that catch-up mechanic as you go through. It's really more about the item usage.
I saw Sungbin throw that water bomb there, and it felt like he just threw it away.
Yeah,
more
I
so
think
than
so.
anything.
Yeah, I think he was just throwing it away. Didn't want to mess with, you know, the potential setup from his own teammates up front. So just cycling through here as we enter lap 2 out of 3. Now, Cool with some double magnets. World with a magnet of his own as well. He's just going to cycle through the missile in the meantime, but we do have Sungbin with double boost, so it looks like Sungbin perhaps already positioning to be that pull anchor for his teammates' magnets.
And Hyunsu has the lightning to bait out the Angels from the side of KWANGDONG FREECS when needed, so I'm sure KWANGDONG FREECS scrambling right now to pick up more Angels.
Yeah, but they're happy to just eat that one, though, for the time being. They're still relying on the fact that they can try to set up an Angel and boost here from Sungbin, and then the teammates try to catch up with Magnus. The problem is you've got some similar ideas on the side of Liiv SANDBOX, so Sungbin, he's going to have to keep up on the first position as he gets slowed down just a tad bit. Insu's up top. He's actually taking the first place.
Along with Cool, it's a fight right now for first position. There's some Magnus all targeting Insu, targeting Cool as well. Now here comes Insu in first place, but no, it's Jimin who manages to secure it for Liiv SANDBOX.
Ooh, a nice finish there. I mean, we saw kind of the body blocking trying to come into play from both teams as well as the magnets were used to try to get a lead over the jump across the Ferris wheel. Now, Insu towards the end, not only is he getting magneted, he's also trying to body block, so he takes a very tight drift, just making way for his teammates, and Jimin finds the right angle to just inch ahead across the finish line first.
And you look at the color coding, it's blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. This is what I call a beautiful teamwork coming out of Liiv SANDBOX to secure that victory.
Yeah, but
even in item mode, you know, it doesn't matter, but I like seeing that better.
Yeah, but you saw that there at the top of the scoreboard, there was 1/1000th of a second difference between first and second place. I mean, Jimin barely crossing the finish line first, but SANDBOX not one to complain there. If they can get that win, they'll happily get it. Now, Cool using that pad boost first to jump off, get the speed. Now he's trying to make way for his teammates as well, but meanwhile he gets slowed down, and Jimin just able to not lose any speed there on the last turn. He actually even goes on the outer side, but he's still able to maintain his top speed, cross the finish line first.
That's what's kind of sad about item mode, is if you're the first to lift your head, then you're pretty much going to get targeted by all the magnets in the world. And honestly, that's what does make item mode fun as we now enter track number 2, Factory Cogwheel Crush. Off we go in item round number 2. Liiv SANDBOX leading the score right now 1-0 against Guangdong FREECS.
Yep, Spear just slowing down to make sure he picks up some weapons, but it's just going to be a water bomb. Not going to be too happy about that one, but again, there is quite a bit of time. Now the problem is, on a track like this, again, another 2-lapper here on the factory modes, I mean, you're not going to have too many opportunities to cycle it through, right? You really want to be able to try to save up for whatever you can. Something just narrowly dodging that banana coming in from the track.
Yeah, bananas can definitely be tricky to dodge unless you're preemptively aware of it, and our players are definitely right now taking their time to dodge out whatever's necessary. Seungha speeding up for the side of Liiv SANDBOX, picking up a magnet and a shield.
Yeah, World, I think, just probably swerving to see if there's a water balloon coming here right there on the ramp, as it does narrow down just a tad bit. Meanwhile, Shortcut's going to open up, so I think, yep, all 3 racers eventually make it in.
My, it is a shortcut indeed, because you can literally feel the speed increase by so much when you go through that. It creates such a big lead for you when you're able to enter it, but on the other hand, if you miss it, that can create some punishable moments.
Yeah, I mean, you really got to keep your eye on that timer as it charges up as you're approaching that section of the track and make your choice.
World.
Now, World just getting hit a little bit by that water bomb. Meanwhile, we are on the second lap out of 2, taking a look at the arsenals. Quite a few boosts all across, and Seungha up front with a shield and a magnet. So he's going to be able to try to keep on to the lead if he wants.
Jimin, he's taking a bit of a drift there to pick up the item for sure, and now Sungbin is coming in with 2 other members of Guangdong FREECS. A banana gonna catch Sungbin off guard.
Yeah, that's going to mess things up just a tad bit. Now Jimin with a boost up front. He doesn't have any other items, but Seungha's got a magnet and a shield as well. So if Jimin can just try to get ahead with the boost, they do have some form of a setup here. Both of them actually now with shields as well. And Seungha's going to use his first. He's drawn the aggro. Jimin, he's safe for the time being. He can enter the shortcut afterwards. He should be able to boost, but here comes a UFO!
It's Jimin and Seungha right now in the front. UFO slows down Seungha now. It's Sungbin and Spear in the front. Spear looks uncontested here, coming in first place for Guangdong FREECS.
Oh, the UFO as he exit the shortcut. I mean, Jimin still had a shield at that time. He actually pops it to try to make sure he's in position to boost up onto the first floor and then be that anchor pull for his teammate to magnet. But Guangdong FREECS, they use the UFO, and then they're set up for their own slingshot to be able to make sure they push Spear across the finish line.
I really love how today we're seeing so many usage of the UFOs coming out. It definitely feels like there's a crack in that magnet and booster meta, because if you rely on that too much, you do lack the angels. And also EMP waves, because you don't have the item space for that. And UFOs have been able to turn a lot of matches around today.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a lot about, do you take the risk of trying to cycle through? I mean, do you also account, do you just say, someone over in the middle of the pack or far behind? Maybe at that point, you're really just trying to cycle through your items. I mean, there's a lot to consider here, but that time around, it was the Guangdong FREECS, now tied 1-1 in item mode. Guangdong FREECS trying to bring this to an ace match as we enter track number 3. It's Mind Magma Cow. And they're off. Guangdong Freaks just trying to drag out this race just a bit further to have a chance to get to the grand final.
Spear, he was actually gonna stick around in the back there and pick up the 2 items, but he picked up 2 boosters, so now you can see him change his playstyle. He's like, all right, team, I'm going to the front now, cover for me.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, you gotta cycle through them one way or another. You do want some more options here. He'll gladly hide on, or rather hold on to one of those boosts because you don't know when it'll come into handy. Now Magma Camera.
Ooh, Songbin with the sweep.
A nice sweep here in item mode, just bumps off one of the members over on the other side. Now Songbin, he's also going to get slowed down himself. But yeah, this track, I mean, you can have some sweeping, you can have some good water bombs. There are some narrow sections and lots of places to fall off, so you have to really be careful of the positioning of your opponents.
Yeah, and you have to be wary of UFOs, especially Cool getting slowed down. You can see the impact of that. He got slowed down all the way to the 8th place. Now Jimin in the front of the pack is going to fall behind to utilize his water bomb.
Just a little bit of a catch there. Insu trying to ride the edge of the track as much as possible. Avoid any casualties on that side. Kunsu now catching up with a magnet of his own. Meanwhile, the Freaks just cycling through an Angel here to make sure, and an EMP to block off. Oh, nice little dodge from World, but Insu's still going to find a way to get ahead.
Insu being ahead paid off big time because he managed to dodge the water bomb. However, he crashed into the wall there, so now all momentum lost. It's World versus Jimin, Hyunsu, and Cool.
Yeah, now World, just an Angel, he's going to want to...
He's trying. Cool execution, but he couldn't.
Yeah, Cool just trying to make sure he's sweeping against Jimin. Both of them trying to play for recovery as well. Now, meanwhile, World, he does get a boost for his troubles alongside the Angel, so he's in good position to be this anchor if he wants for Cool. Cool with the magnet and boost as well, but Jimin is ahead with his own magnet. It's really going to come down to who's able to use their item first, and the mind games that comes down to the timing.
Jimin right now has a shield. He gets slowed down by the UFO. Now it's Seungha and World, but no, it's 2 members of Guangdong Freaks, Cool and Spear, going to be able to jump right into the finish line, bringing up the score 2-1 against Liiv SANDBOX.
And this is why we see a lot of teams prioritize the magnet and the boost, right? I mean, if you have more than one member with it, even if you fall behind, you can actually save to use yours next. As you see your opponents trying to slingshot forward, you actually bring them back, use them as the anchor, and fly above them as we saw here at the end of the track. I mean, Cool and Spear just taking a hefty lead in that last jump, but again, the risk is then you don't have as many defensive options. This time it works out for Guangdong Freaks.
Yeah, we're absolutely neck to neck here today between Liiv SANDBOX and Guangdong Freaks. The speed mode going all the way down to round 7. Item mode, it's 2-1. No team here wants to give up that advantage.
Yeah, I mean, Liiv SANDBOX, they've always looked so strong in item mode, but today they're struggling just a bit more than usual. But first of all, we did see a lot of nice sweeps. Yeah, I mean, what a great bump on Jimin. Absolutely calculated.
And I believe this is where Cool might have tried to attempt execution.
No, he's just going to slingshot forward. Yeah, this is right at the end here with the magnet and the boost. The Angel's coming in from his teammate as well. But if you have one person with the Angel, the rest with the magnet and the boost, obviously it's going to be an excellent boost forward and a jump there towards the end. Fans on both sides of the stadium as we enter track 4, Guangdong Freaks now in the lead in item mode, trying to bring this to an ace match. We're going to be going to Desert Pharaoh's Path.
We are here in item round number 4 of the upper bracket finals. Liiv SANDBOX, if they win in the item mode, they're able to move on to the finals.
Yeah, they'll get to the grand finals first. Meanwhile, the losing team, if that happens, Guangdong Freaks would have to play against Aura tomorrow. Same thing could go for SANDBOX, so if this goes to an ace match, they're in risk of having to play yet another team race tomorrow against Aura, who is looking like they are on fire these past couple races.
Yeah, and I like the dodge from Spear and Songbin there on the water bombs. They really executed it perfectly. 1, 2, 3, 4 now for Guangdong Freaks.
Yeah, and Songbin even just making sure to use a little bit of stop blocking there against Liiv SANDBOX to make sure that they don't all catch up, that Guangdong Freaks able to still hold on to the lead for the time being.
Yep, and now we do see a UFO being held by Songbin. No EMP waves around to defend against that one.
Yeah, just going to be able to use it. You know, Songbin's going to hold on to his. Meanwhile, we saw UFO and an EMP prior barricades being used, but Songbin's still holding on to that UFO you mentioned, so I got to imagine that this is part of the game plan here, a bit of an insurance, but Jimin now has an EMP. Curious to see if he just holds on to that to the very end.
Yeah, now there's the counterplay from Jimin, and he's absolutely holding it right now. And once they realize that, of course, the UFO was instantly used.
Yeah, just used and cycled through on both sides. So now the Lightning, the UFO, all cycled through. Meanwhile, many members with magnets and boosts on both teams, so they do have one win condition each, but it's a matter of who sets up to be that better anchor up front.
Jimin taking some blocks on Spear there, but Spear, if he picks up, he's already got it actually. He doesn't even need to pick up anything. He's got the magnet and booster, so he's just waiting for the opportunity. Yeah,
dude, we see a couple early magnets being used here to enter into the last section. Meanwhile, World has cycled through onto a UFO, and I don't know if Liiv SANDBOX is going to be aware of this. Even if they try to get the jump right at the end, the UFO might be used, but Sungmin, he's not making way for it just yet. He's still holding on to number one. Oh, the banana's going to have some action as well. Meanwhile, the UFO doesn't even need to be used.
Oh, Sungmin!
Nice block there against Jimin's magnet near the end. Crosses the finish line first.
Yeah, Jimin all of a sudden came out, speeds blazing across, and we thought maybe Jimin is going to shake things up, but Sungmin with the block to make sure that doesn't happen. Now bringing the score up to a 3-1. Guangdong FREECS looking pretty good here in item mode.
Guangdong FREECS, their item mode has been getting better and better, it seems, and I mean, they needed that as well, as much as they looked unbeatable in speed mode. They didn't look like the perfect team just yet, but now they're starting to prove that even Liiv SANDBOX, their item mode can be broken. Guangdong FREECS now leading 3-1.
Yeah, right now, our next track is going to be match point. Guangdong FREECS wins it. Then we get an ace match between the two teams, and that would be a treat to see for us, the viewers and the casters, because we didn't get one today earlier on. And we all love ace matches. They're exciting.
Oh, I mean, they are so exciting from a viewer's perspective, of course. So I would like nothing more than to see these two teams face off in yet another ace match. I missed that there from Hyunsu, just really locking down Sungbin. But yeah, look at this positioning. Jimin just trying to magnet on the outside, and Sungbin's well aware of it.
And that awareness is what gave Guangdong FREECS the win. And wow, cute little drawing for Guangdong. This is Guangdong, they say.
Yeah, just the rabbit cheering here for Guangdong FREECS. Meanwhile, SANDBOX now the one looking like they are under a bit of pressure as they now have to play catch up. We're going to be entering round 5 of item mode. Can Guangdong FREECS bring it to an ace match, or will SANDBOX start to close things out? It's Fine Motherload. Guangdong FREECS with some excellent setups in the past couple tracks, looking rejuvenated here in item mode. Can they bring us to the ace match? Let's find out.
So now waited absolutely to the T to pick up those double item boxes. The water bomb did not get great usage. However, this is a 3-lapper track. Double water bomb for Insu.
Yeah, and again, we saw this earlier as well, but there are these jumps and these shortcuts, so the timing can be used there. It's a couple drops as well, where you can try to take the upper line or magnet someone so that they get caught on the drop or the jump.
Yeah, and we see the water bomb actually going to be able to catch players both on the bottom and top of that track, getting a lot of value. Now we do see an EMP wave quickly cycle through. No reason to hold that if you don't see a UFO on the opposing side.
Yeah, so just using a magnet himself to try to catch up to Spear. Spear actually getting dragged behind so hard. Barricades and water bombs galore. Lots of aggressive action here in the first lap. Now, again, this track fairly narrow for the majority of it, so we're going to constantly see those in use. And the Shields and Angels are going to have a lot more value.
Right, cool. It's going to be able to use that shield to block out that water bomb from coming in, but the UFO is going to slow him down. Now it's Spear going to get missiled out of contention.
Yeah, UFO right away just to catch back up. You still have another lap and a half to be able to cycle through your items, so cool. Not wasting any time to cycle through that. Meanwhile, World does have an EMP. He's actually just going to use it to try to cycle through, but doesn't get another item for his troubles. Looks like that might have been slightly this time. Yeah,
Spear now is going to be able to utilize the UFO EMP being swapped out by Sunga here. Now cool, he's got a banana, and he sneaks one onto Jimin.
Yeah, then Jimin gets wasped as well. Gonna have a hard time climbing up that incline there to try to regain his speed, but now we enter lap 3. Insu just lining himself up for a potential water bomb, and it's good for 2.
Definitely some good stuff coming out. Now the Lightning going to be able to bait out the Angel here. Now only one Angel on the side of Hyunsu. We are going for the shortcuts. All players managed to make it across. We're in the third lap, and the Lightnings are huge.
Yeah, no Angels yet in sight for Kwangdong Freaks. They don't really have any other options. They do have an EMP, but now the Magnet, can it be enough? A nice block from Hyunsu to try to keep the lead against his opponents.
Right now, Hyunsu is all the hope for Liiv SANDBOX. 2, 3, 4 for Kwangdong Freaks, and we have World trying to come in. Here's the Angel being popped out.
Yeah, here comes the UFO as well. The EMP is used, but Spear can't heal. No, Sunga bolts across as everyone eventually gets pushed off against each other on the narrow ramp, and he just slingshots forward across the finish line.
That was a really close one for Liiv SANDBOX there. If they lost that, then it was an ace match happening, but now they have a bit more breathing room. They're bringing the score up to a 2-3.
Yeah, I mean, even the observers and we were all kind of focused on Spear, able to just kind of go through without a fight here towards the last ramp, but Sungha saving up his speed, based items like the Magnet and the Boost, able to slingshot way across out of everyone's field of vision. Now they're keeping things interesting here in item mode.
Definitely, we see Insu now. He's all serious in games, focused on his team comms. No time for the camera.
No, this is not the time for the camera, even for Insu. He wants to make sure that they can close things out, don't want to risk it on an ace match. Of course, neither team would get knocked out of the tournament just yet, but they would have to come back for yet another back-to-back match tomorrow.
And hopefully, both teams here today are looking to take another lead here on track number 6. It's going to be Forest Mushroom Caves. Off we go. Once again, a match point here for Kwangdong Freaks. If they win this one, then it's an ace match.
Yeah, now this one, of course, the early sections of the track, it is quite narrow, but it really opens up towards the end there with the tree stump. So curious to see what the item usage is here. Just a 2-lapper in that sense.
Right, and we see right now a complete domination of the positions for Liiv SANDBOX. Sunga tried to go for a sneaky banana there. Shield going to be able to dodge out the water bomb.
Yeah, just an EMP already in place for Sunga as well.
Okay, beautifully dodged.
I can't imagine the EMP is going to stick around for too long, as we already see just tons of aggression from both sides. We've still got missiles and water balloons on both sides, and they will all connect here.
I am absolutely loving the aggression here. The water bombs and the whips are popping off everywhere right now. Even a UFO coming in. Hyunsu going to take that tight line to try to avoid some of these attacks.
Yeah, meanwhile, he's still going to get slowed down. Still not enough shields and angels here, because you also want to try to save these up for the second lap. You're still going to have enough time and space to catch back up here in item mode. So now we'll see a little bit of a calming down session here for both teams.
Yeah, it seemed like Sungha there was taking an interesting turn to try to go for the sweeping. But now we do see World and Sungbin holding that 1-2. Angel and Shield to draw out the aggro.
Yeah, then the boost and magnet from Sungbin as well. So whether he uses it on World or if it's going to be used against someone else who's trying to slingshot forward from SANDBOX, if they want to do that, Freaks will have to slow down just a bit so they have room to be able to determine and diagnose the situation.
Yeah, an Angel being popped there from both teams. Now only Jimin holding onto the Angel from both teams. It's all magnet and boost right now. EMP wave not very helpful.
Yeah, but a great setup here. Spear can boost forward and Sungbin can try to catch up with his own boost and magnet. That's going to be the play. Same thing coming in from Insudo. Can he get away? No! The water bomb blocks off so many members of Kwangdong Freaks. And now it's going to be Hyunsu who gets it safely alongside his duo Insu.
That last phase was so crazy. Everyone popping their magnet and boosters. Water bomb all of a sudden coming in and getting so many members. But it is Liiv SANDBOX now coming in, tying up the score 3-3.
A great setup from Liiv SANDBOX. And to be able to time a water bomb like that during a boost and magnet session, that's a lot of coordination and a lot of awareness on distance. So very, very well played here from Liiv SANDBOX. Gotta give a round of applause.
Yeah, Liiv SANDBOX, the team that we all thought was potentially the best item mode team in the KDL preseason, coming in hot, showing why they were considered that, and we saw a sign saying, never panic for Liiv SANDBOX.
Yeah, so far they haven't, right? Yeah, they started to lose the lead here in item mode, but they're able to claw right back, and we're going to be going to the very last track here. Again, speed mode, also a 4-3 score line here for Liiv SANDBOX this time. 3-3. Will SANDBOX get yet another 4-3 victory, or will the Guangdong Freaks now clap back as they try to go to an ace match? Ladies and gentlemen, down to the wire between the two titans of the Kart Rider Drift League. It's Guangdong Freaks versus Liiv SANDBOX on Glacier Polar Half Pipe. One last team track between the two teams to decide who goes to their grand finals, or if we go to an ace match. Guangdong Freaks trying to bring it to the ace match. SANDBOX, they just want to finish the night nice and early.
Yeah, it's interesting that Spear got targeted by the missile there because he was already all the way in 8th place. So a spin around missile coming in, putting a lot of emphasis on keeping Spear out.
Yeah, it's just a couple sweeps here. I mean, both these teams, they love to play aggressively, even in speed mode. So it's no surprise that they're all so aware of each other. Cool, just trying to make sure he doesn't get hit by any crazy water bombs here, and then make sure he sweeps back in for another item.
Yeah, we see the bananas and missiles and UFOs being traded out here. We have many angels on both teams. Not a lot of magnets and boosters.
Yeah, so far, lots of aggression. Lightning in store here for Jimin as well. The Wisps almost always being used instantly just to get a slight edge. Now entering lap 2 of 3. A couple UFOs in play. One of them already going to be cycled out.
We know, Will, that in Glacier Polar Halfpipe, magnets or boosters are pretty pivotal because of that top half of the track and how you can interact with it.
Yeah, we're going to probably see it right here.
Oh my!
Oh, Sunga gets knocked right at the edge of the jump. What is that timing? Now he wants to still land safely, and that's what we were talking about. Peter mentioning that shortcut of a bit. Now, of course, if you go up there, you're not going to be able to contend for as many items here, and that's kind of the trade-off. But Hyunsu, happy to take it for the time being. We'll see if it happens again on lap 3.
Right, and now we see a lot of boosters across the board coming into the lap number 3. Our players putting heavy emphasis on that, and we have to keep our eyes on when they're going to use it and who's going to be the one to go for a crazy sweeping play.
Yeah, curious to see if any members of Guangdong Freaks try to slow down Insu here on the jump. They're actually just going to use the UFO right away, so Insu still has an opportunity to try to get back into the lead here as we get into the shortcut area. Oh, a little bit of a fight here, and no one going to use their full boost to get up to the top, just trying to make sure they sweep against each other.
Yeah, they're just trying to pick up the items, but it's actually World who managed to make it up there alone. He's going to get targeted by all the magnets now. Seungha speeding across.
Yeah, but there's still more magnets in store as well. Spear's got one more. Can he try to target it? It's actually the UFO. It gets EMP'd, and Seungha now staying in first place. But there comes a magnet in from Spear. He actually even uses it to block the opponents, and World gets in safely. A great play from Guangdong Freaks. None of them taking the initial shortcut, sending World in sneakily to take the first lead. He gets targeted by Seungha to catch up, but Liiv SANDBOX just one step rushed in that last Arsenal play as we had a couple more items in store from the Guangdong Freaks.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed going to an ace match today. And how much more exciting can it be seeing an ace match being played out between Guangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX?
Oh man, now the last time they played against each other was World versus Neil. And I believe that was the one where Neil makes a bit of a mistake trying to block against World, not able to catch back up. Now the question is will it be Neil or Insu most likely on the side of SANDBOX? Meanwhile, Guangdong Freaks, as they always like to do for the ace match, the coach comes on stage and they will all go through a meeting to decide which of the 4 players, because any of them could enter this ace match.
You can't forget that there is a last dance on the line for Liiv SANDBOX, so you have to assume that the ace match opportunity is going to go to one of the players who are having their final season here in Preseason 1. Whereas Guangdong Freaks, they've diversified who came out so far. Once it was World, the other time it was Songbin, and they both won, so they have a really strong arsenal in their hands.
Yeah, I am curious, on who that's going to be on the side of SANDBOX. I mean, there will be a lot of meaning behind letting Insu or Seungha enter if it's between those two. Most likely Insu, but at the same time, I mean, this is the first preseason. You want to make sure, while it would be great to have kind of a nice hurrah send-off for your teammate, it's got to be whoever's in the best condition and depending on which track it is as well.
Yeah, then that UFO came in. Jimin tried to shield away whatever he can, but there were just too many attacks targeting him, and it was Guangdong Freaks now being able to come all the way here to an ace match after both speed and item going all the way down to round number 7. These players must be mentally and maybe even physically exhausted. So you have to wonder who's in the best form right now.
Yeah, well, last time it was a winding slopes. World versus Neil. Neil with a slight mistake as they were entering that cave section with the pipes. Bumps into the wall and allows World to get ahead. Now SANDBOX, there's Sinha on camera.
Yeah.
Jimin on the right as well.
Senai and Insu, the last dance players.
Oh, Neil's putting on his headset.
Oh, does that mean something,
I
Will?
think it might be Neil. I mean, he looks like he's the most ready to play another race of kart rider here, so perhaps just feeling it today. I mean, we'd have to take a look at the track as well.
Yeah, but what if he's baiting us? You know, Neil likes to joke around.
I mean, that could happen. Yeah, we've seen that happen, but it's going to be Pharaoh's Pass, so quite a straightforward track. Now, we've seen it before in an ace match as well. There's still a couple opportunities to really play some mind games as you enter kind of that loop-de-loop as you go into the indoor area. Really try to pressure your opponent into making a forced mistake.
Especially in a 1v1, it's so big because if you make a mistake, there's no teammate to try to cover for the distance you lost. So this is definitely going to be a track where the mind games are going to be played out constantly, and I wonder who the players will be.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, a rematch between World and Neil, maybe. That could be exciting as well. A little bit of redemption for Neil as well, and World just really trying to prove himself. But
Oh, Insu!
oh, Insu, he says, nah, it's me. I'm here. I'm trying to make sure my last dance is a heroic one. And Insu, I mean, what a story it would be if he can win the ace match, go to the grand finals first.
I told you, Will, Neil's a prankster.
Yeah, he likes
you can't
to do
trust
that.
him.
Putting in his friggin' noise-canceling headset on the camera, that guy. You love him as well, but right now, all eyes on Insu. Now, World going up against a second ace match against Liiv SANDBOX. Now, another new opponent in the form of Insu.
And if World can prove himself again, then we might as well start seeing World as truly the ace match player for Guangdong Freaks. And then right now, we're already ready. There's no more to talk about. The action's about to begin in our ace match versus World and Insu in Desert Pharaoh's Pass.
And they're off. Ace match. Just 3 laps to decide who will go to the grand finals first in preseason 1 of the Kart Rider Drift League. It's Guangdong Freaks World versus Liiv SANDBOX Insu.
Ooh, World looked like he hugged the line too tightly there. He did go into the wall a little bit, but he's still maintaining the lead. Insu just going for a straight boost.
And Insu's actually just well ahead in terms of boost gauge as well here. So World now just trying to catch up there, of course, on those kind of loop-de-loop hairpins. You do have an opportunity, but Insu feeling fairly tough. World setting himself up to make sure he can try to cut and sweep against Insu, but Insu's not going to get any sort of phasing out of that.
Yeah, Insu definitely keeping up the lead nicely, but now it's World who manages to find the angle and breaks through the defense of Insu.
Yeah, but look at Insu. I mean, he's just so well aware. He's actually not even going to play any sort of risky place here on the indoor area. You still have another lap. You just want to make sure you're in range to be able to always find another opportunity to catch up. Insu not taking any big risks just yet.
Yeah, but now this is the 3rd lap, so our players are going to start to bring out their hidden strategies. Insu and World taking the same exact lines, and we see Insu attempting the draft.
Oh, but he gets knocked right into the wall. World able to keep up his momentum as he's able to get a bit of a momentum into the draft as well against Insu. Now Insu getting another draft right now. World, he's trying to make sure he stays ahead. Insu might have one more opportunity here in the last corner. He's positioning himself for it. He wants to enter the inside line, but World's not giving him room. World's staying ahead, and
Oh, so
World
close!
enters into first place. Even World double checking if he was surely ahead or if it was a tie, but World is able to beat out Insu. World now 2-0 in ace matches against Liiv SANDBOX.
That really looked like it could have gone either way at the end there. Insu coming in, but just a fraction of a second too late. And it was such a close race between the two players. You can see the adrenaline on World.
Yeah, I mean, look at the timing there. 0.026, right? I mean,
Literally a fraction almost.
yeah, it's just 100th of a second, 200ths of a second, and World able to prove himself against, I mean, these just history talented players in both Neil last time and now in Insu. And I mean, I'm sure for Insu fans and Insu himself, I mean, this is his last season in the league here. Would have been nice to have a victory in the ace match, but they're not out just yet. Of course, they do have another opportunity to rematch against Guangdong FREECS in the grand finals if they're able to beat Aura tomorrow.
Aura, the final boss waiting in the line now. You have to wonder how they feel about Liiv SANDBOX being their opponent. They definitely have to prepare around that now as we take a look at the result of today. Speed going 4-3 in favor of Liiv SANDBOX. Item going 4-3 for Guangdong FREECS. And ultimately, it was the ace match that gave the victory over to Guangdong.
And literally the maximum number of tracks you can play here in this best of 7 format. Guangdong FREECS and Liiv SANDBOX once again proving why they were hailed as the two titans entering the very first preseason of KDL. But it's going to be Guangdong FREECS now. That means they cement a guaranteed second place finish in the overall team league. And they're also in contention for the first ever winner of the KDL as they await in the grand finals.
Honestly, both teams showed such a good showing today, and it could have gone either way at any point. We've had the most back and forth definitely in terms of matches because we've never had a best of 7 so far, and nor have we seen it go down all the way to the 7th match in both matches. But we take a look now, and the standings are finalized.
Yeah, this is what the playoff bracket now looks like. Aura beats ROX to survive here in the tournament, and they were waiting for their opponent. Meanwhile, we're going to have Guangdong FREECS, who wins their upper bracket final. They go to the grand finals, and Liiv SANDBOX, having taken that loss, they will now have to race against Aura once again tomorrow. That's going to be tomorrow. I mean, this is just back-to-back non-stop action. So make sure you stay tuned and visit us again tomorrow, same time. But let's take a look at how the matches panned out today so far.
Yep, in the beginning it was Aura versus ROX. They took a 4-0 clean sweep in speed, while in item mode it came really close against ROX, but they managed to tie it out. And honestly, I feel like Aura, they showed a good showing today, and going against a team like Liiv SANDBOX, they still have a really good chance.
I think so. I'm starting to think I might favor Aura just a tad bit in speed mode.
All right.
I just think the way they're playing, I mean, the way they played against the ROX today, it was very clear that they had a picture-perfect winning game plan against ROX, and I can only imagine that they have some similar ideas up against Liiv SANDBOX. Now, Liiv SANDBOX not as one-dimensional as ROX in speed mode. However, I mean, Aura, they look scary right now.
Yeah, it is definitely going to be interesting to see the adaptations come into play. Especially, you have to have wonder that the strategies for fighting against Liiv SANDBOX, fighting against Guangdong FREECS had to be completely different because although both teams are so good, they do have different playstyles. And now, especially seeing Aura with their playstyle today, 1-2 contention, that was their game plan. We might see it again.
Yeah, now I know like a lot of fans of Kart Rider Drift here in Korea were just saying before the match like, oh, well, now that I know that Insu and Sunga is their last season, I kind of just want SANDBOX to win and go all the way to the grand finals. But here's the thing, Aura, as much as I'm sure they, really would like to see their friends succeed, at the same time, they don't want to miss this chance either, right? They're in such a good position to try to make a crazy run to the grand finals.
Beating out ROX, stopping Jong's momentum, and then beating out Liiv SANDBOX, the initial season favorite, would definitely be quite the road that Aura could build for themselves. And that's why we are super excited to bring you guys some matches tomorrow.
Yeah, that should be exciting, but let's take a look at how the two matches played out today. We started with the lower bracket finals, of course, a 4-0 clean sweep in speed mode from Aura. That's why I was saying I think they look scarier than ever. But then ROX Esports puts up a good fight in item mode.
Yep, ROX, we thought it was going to be speed where they put up a good fight, but completely throwing us off there. Unfortunately, no ace match happened. So, Aura, if you're a fan of Aura, that's exactly what you want. No score in that set 3 ace match.
Yeah, just an excellent showing from Aura, not even allowing that risky ace match against ROX Esports' superhero Jung. That allows them to stay alive. Meanwhile, of course, that means we said goodbye to ROX Esports here in the very first season of the KDL. And Aura, with that victory, they move on to face their next opponent, which was determined by the upper bracket finals here in the playoffs of KDL Preseason 1.
Right, and then we take a look at the result once again between Guangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX. If you guys missed a single moment of this match, you guys should definitely go back and rewatch it because you're in for a treat, a long battle between the two teams.
Yeah, I mean, you could have just seen kind of the aggression and the respect that both these teams gave to each other in terms of understanding how good each other are. Even in that ace match, I mean, it was very rare to see Insu put so much respect to World, not wanting to try to force any sort of high-risk, high-reward play and then make his own mistake, but that allows World to eventually cross the finish line first. And World now a 2-0 victory in his record in ace matches against Liiv SANDBOX. That's got to be something that he's very proud of in his personal career.
Guangdong Freaks is looking super scary right now in the ace matches for sure. If you want to beat them, then you have to be ready with your speed ace to be able to perform against players like World, and that's going to be really interesting to see, of course, in the grand finals.
Yeah, and also Guangdong Freaks and Liiv SANDBOX, obviously these two brands, within the Kartrider League have always kind of had this rivalry story between themselves. Guangdong Freaks always playing second fiddle. They were runner-up 3 times in a row last year.
Right.
The very last one was actually against Liiv SANDBOX, so I'm sure they're very happy to beat them this time. But however, they still have the grand finals left. Liiv SANDBOX might come back for another rematch and take them down when it matters.
They would honestly be like, oh, it's you again. We meet again, old friend.
Yeah,
but
again.
they definitely prefer Aura in that sense. Maybe they want to taste something new. When you have food, the same thing too many times, you get sick of it. You want to refresh your palate.
Yeah, could be. Well, tomorrow, that's going to be Liiv SANDBOX and Aura. See who gets to get their rematch against Guangdong Freaks. And then after that, we continue our solo matches. We're not done with those yet either. It's going to be the final round of 16 match to see which 4 players will still be able to get that extra chance to get in to the final 8 of the solos.
And although it's a chance for the players, those players are so good. When you take a look at their tags, World, Speed, Jim and Ding, Neil, Sungbin, Perfect, and Spell, you know these players and you recognize them because they've done so well so far in the KDL Preseason. Yeah,
I mean, we even just saw World, Jimin, and Neil today in the matchup between SANDBOX and Freaks, and then there's players like Speed and Ding, and Perfect, where we don't get to see them anymore in the team matches, but they're surviving to represent not only their team but themselves here in the solo mode to prove themselves. And yeah, I mean, any 4 of these players moving on would not be surprising, but my eyes specifically are on World and Neil, right? Do they continue to prove that they're just one clear step ahead of their competition?
And Jimin, the only item ace left in the solo match, will he be able to prove that item aces are actually good at speed kind of matches too?
Yeah, I mean, also, the free-for-all solo mode is different from team mode speed as well, so that's a whole different ball game. Jimin, of course, doing very well for himself so far. See if he's able to survive into the final 8 as we enter the last phases of KDL Preseason 1.
Speaking of final, because you keep saying that word, you see Speed there all alone from Sensation.
Yep.
I feel like Sensation, they've had so much hype on their backs coming into Preseason. They haven't delivered. Now Speed is the only one that can continue their legacy.
Yeah, that's a lot that rides on him, right? That's quite a bit of pressure as well, but he's proven that, he has the capability to carry that pressure with him. See if he can really put Sensation's name there, on the radar in the final 8 as well. This is all tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see at the top, it's going to be 6 p.m. KST. It's the same start time as today, and we'll have that team match and the solo final round of 16.
I have a suggestion here, Will. Let's do a caster prediction right now. Aura versus Liiv SANDBOX. You go first.
SANDBOX.
Oh,
I'm not
really?
even gonna.
You
let
hyped
it be
them up earlier. You hyped them up.
I think it can go to an ace match.
Yeah.
I think Aura can win speed mode.
Yeah.
But SANDBOX's item mode still is so strong that I think they'll be able to do well.
Well, I'll join you on that SANDBOX vote because
right.
it is their last dance.
Exactly. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow with more KDL Preseason 1. We'll see you then.